Oh my goodness. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is for you. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schaumler. This is Strong Opinion Sports, episode 687. And joining me, and it's the second time I've introduced him in about 30 seconds because we started and then realized, hey, we didn't hit record. And so we talked for like a minute with nothing. Anyway, we're back. Joining me is Nathan. Nathan, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. The other intro was great in the moment. Then I started thinking about it, and now just good. All right. Watched some football today. Watched some over the weekend. Great weekend. It was great.
Kind of a weird weekend where there was good football this weekend for sure, but we're really gearing up to what's going to be like next weekend's the weekend. It's an incredible weekend. I don't know. The NFL is scheduling football games head to head against the college football playoffs. I don't know why. And by the way, it's two of the best games in the NFL next week are happening at the same time as college football playoff. I don't know why that decision was made. I don't really get it, but I guess I just gotta like be a slave to my TV next Saturday. And like,
pretty much.
I don't know. It's wild.
Sorry, family, I love you, but got some football to watch.
I mean, I guess it's for people that hate their families but have to be around them, so they need TV to like drown out the chaos. Like they need it. You know what I mean? Like that's happening in the corner, and you can at least watch football as like a break.
Right. Exactly. Kind of escape. Grab a little bit of pie, sit over in the corner, watch some football. Not saying that's what I do, but it's what you could do.
No, that's the thing. Like I am someone who I like my family. I enjoy time with them, and I would actually rather there be games that aren't like I was grateful. Like Thanksgiving didn't have great football games, so it's like, well, it's not a burden if I don't have to watch them. It's like, like they're kind of mid. Like I'm with my family, and I'll watch. Was it Raiders Chiefs or not? But these are like great games, and I'm like, dang it, I actually kind of want to pay attention to them. It's a good problem to have, I guess. But it's crazy. Like next Saturday in particular is chock full. I guess to say that though, this week was kind of it was all right. There was a couple of good games, but we're kind of really gearing up for next week. Is that kind of how you feel about this past weekend?
Yeah, this past weekend was a prove it weekend for everyone to say, hey, either I'm a contender, I'm a playoff team, or I'm way out of this thing. And we got to see a very clear, honestly, kind of setup of that based on the way the teams performed. Going into this next week, those teams that believe that they are fringe playoff teams, right? You're not the contenders, you're not a division winner. This last home stretch of games means everything. And that's what's going to make these next games so electric.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app. Use Prize Picks while you watch NFL games this fall because making picks makes watching games more engaging, and you could turn something like $5 into $50. Prize Picks offers quick and easy deposits. You can even use Apple Pay. So put your skills to the test in daily fantasy. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That is prizepicks.com/CLNS using code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy made easy. There's one team that I thought really proved themselves this past weekend. The Bills beat the Lions 48-42, and it was I don't know if the final score does this game justice or not, because on paper it was a crazy back and forth game, and it was, if you look at the box score, you're like, wow, like Jared Goff had an incredible stat line, and the final score is close, but the reality was, I was watching kind of disappointed, like hoping the Lions could get back in the game, because Buffalo led 35-14 in the second half, and then 38-21, and then 45-28, and slowly the Lions kind of eked their way back into the game. But for the Bills to go into Detroit on the road against a 10-1 or a 10 or 11, a one-loss football team and play dominant football for parts of that game, I think the Bills made a statement this weekend. Would you agree with that?
They certainly did. And honestly, to me, yes, offense was a big part of that. But this matchup was all about defense. Right? We saw the Bills go out and jump up and get up early. And we know that the Bills defense isn't particularly amazing. They play big and they play strong in spots, but they're not I wouldn't call them a top, 10 defense. Yeah. Maybe top 8. They might be top 10, right? And then on the flip side for the Lions, they are used to going out and jumping in front and allowing that defense to play in attack mode, not prevent mode, stop scoring mode, right? So we had two defenses kind of playing opposite roles, and we saw the Bills defense struggle in that second half to keep the Lions from getting their points on the board. I think all defenses are going to struggle with that. It's the Lions. And then again, that Lions defense, I think I might have been a week early on my prediction. They just are too injured and have too many holes to be able to sustain an offensive barrage from literally Superman himself incarnate, Josh Allen. What he did was so impressive. And honestly, barring some, I don't want to call, boneheaded mistakes from Dan Campbell, maybe this game looks different. But again, tip of the cap to the way that the Bills prepared themselves for this game. They knew that they had to get out in front. And I believe you called out a big fourth down play, right? That kind of set that up.
There was a big moment. I don't know if this is the one you're talking about. There was a play on the goal line where I don't think this is actually what you're talking about. There was a play where the Lions defense got a stop. It was 3rd and goal. They get a stop. And then the Bills missed the field goal. So on 4th and goal, no points happened at all, which actually would have made the gap bigger between Buffalo and Detroit. I don't think that's what you're talking about, though. Which one are you referring to?
I'm talking about the fourth down in the
midfield.
Midfield.
Yeah.
I believe their second possession might have been their first or second possession of the game.
I think it was their third. Well, it was early in the game. I think they had a 2-touchdown lead, and the Lions. It was either 14-7 or 14-0, but the Bills are at midfield. It's 4th down, and they go for it. They get a huge throw down the right sideline. And really it kind of set the tone like, hey, Buffalo's not here to screw around. They realize who their opponent is. They realize they're playing, I think, the best team in football. It's the Detroit Lions pretty clearly across the board. Yep. And they're like, hey, we know our opponent. We understand the situation. We take this really seriously. That's what you got to do to win big games like this on the road against an opponent like Detroit. You got to take a couple risks. You got to take things seriously on 4th and short. Even if you're up early, go for it. Be in attack mode. They were. And I thought that really set the tone for the game from Buffalo's perspective.
Yeah, they knew that they had to score points. And the way they were able to get that 4th down with Josh Allen continuing to stay alive and make the throw to Ty Johnson is just so amazing. And again, that's what's going to make the Buffalo Bills dangerous, closing out the season and getting into the playoffs. We'll get to this later, but with the Mahomes injury, that door to the number 1 seed is really open right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think Josh Allen was seeing the field really well. There was a play, one in particular. I think this is one I'm thinking of is fourth down and it's man coverage, and he just recognized, hey, I got exactly the matchup I want. Found exactly where he went with the football. Josh Allen was totally humming, like actually, peak performance from him. I don't know if he's MVP or not, but the argument's really strong for Josh Allen right now. And I would be totally happy and satisfied if Josh Allen won the MVP after this year. He deserves some recognition. He's been great for years and really has nothing to show for it. Not a Super Bowl, not an MVP. It'd be cool to see him, even if he doesn't get a Super Bowl this year, which I think is still on the table for him and could happen. At least to see him get some hardware of some kind would be really cool for Josh Allen.
Yeah, and you could say that's probably about a lot of the elite quarterbacks, right? If you were to take Josh Allen away from the Buffalo Bills, this is probably barely a 500 team. Looking at the rest of the roster and, again, the defense and how it would have to play, knowing that they don't have Josh Allen, it'd be entirely different. And that just speaks to how special he is. To me, the last 2 weeks have made him the MVP. And I know that Lamar, he did a great job as well. He had 5 total touchdowns. It was against the Giants, kind of a little bit different, but doesn't take away from how dialed in and how well he played. But yeah, to me, Josh Allen right now is a clear MVP.
The other underrated hero is Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator, who I think is going to get phone calls about a head coaching job. I honestly, I will always say this. I don't mean to be a guy who discourages people from pursuing their dream and trying to elevate themselves and whatever, but the grass isn't always greener. And it just seems really clear. Josh Allen and Joe Brady are just a match made in heaven. And wherever Joe Brady goes next, he's not going to have Josh Allen.
Exactly.
And I just... Man, again, I don't want to discourage people from going and finding that, maybe he goes to work with Caleb Williams in Chicago and it's great. Something like that, right? He'll go find a quarterback, I'm sure, of some kind. But man, if I was working in Kansas City or Buffalo or one of those couple places that you got an elite quarterback and a really unique special situation and a ton of job security. Another position I think of is the defensive coordinator in Green Bay, where you got a quarterback, you got a head coach. I think Jeff Hafley, really secure, not going anywhere. There are guys that are going to get head coaching offers that I think might consider, dude, you got a good life. Stay where you are, dominate for years. And I'm curious if Joe Brady has the foresight to stay or whether he wants to go pursue a better job. You can't hate the guy for that, but certainly I think he could be the offensive coordinator in Buffalo for a long, long time and have sustained dominance.
Yeah, and Joe Brady is only 35 years old. I said to double
Yeah.
check there real quick. He's only 35. He's got a lot of time. And unless he wants to be the next Sean McVay, right? And
Yeah.
come in, a lot of pressure, youngest guy, youngest coach, etc. You'd have to be very intentional about that job you take and make sure that you're setting yourself up with the best possible situation. So,
I think people have fear they're going to miss their opportunity, though. Like, hey, this is my shot. I'm never going to get it again. And a guy like Joe Brady, if you do your job right, you're going to always have the option to be head coach. But finding the right time to take that exit, finding the right time to, I'm on the highway, my car's going great. I'm going to take the exit now. Let's stay where we are for a little bit and then take the exit later. Like, find the right opportunity. And he can be choosy. He's in a really advantageous position where he doesn't have to take I would say like the Raiders job is kind of a bad job. He doesn't have to do that to himself. And I hope he has the foresight to think that way.
yeah, there's that. And then it coupled again with the age factor, right? So you think about how coaches are viewed throughout the NFL, and I think that coaches are starting to skew a little bit younger, not longer. We saw Colin McDonald, no, I'm sorry, Mike McDonald get hired by the Seattle Seahawks. He's kind of on the younger side, so there is a trend. Raheem Morris isn't super young, but he's on the younger side. D'Amico Ryan's another guy on the young. So it's trending that way, and it looks like the right thing to do. You kind of get the guy who's he's a little closer in age to the players. He's got some experience, but he's also more on the collaborative side. But yeah, if they win the Super Bowl, get out. Go get your head coaching job. But if you don't, then that's where I think you pull a Ben Johnson. You come back and see if you can get it done.
We are gearing up for the holidays, and the Game Time app is the best place to find NFL tickets, which tickets could be a great gift for someone you love. Maybe you want tickets to an NFL playoff game, or maybe your favorite college team has a bowl game coming up. On the Game Time app, you will find affordable tickets that are easy to buy. And here's what the Game Time app does for you. The Game Time Picks feature allows for curation that makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and other events. They've got all-in pricing, which is a feature that makes sure there are no surprise fees at checkout. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. And the Game Time app has a lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And then on top of all that, Game Time has ticket coverage where your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with the code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. I want to kind of shift gears to Detroit, which is to say that here's a stat line for Jared Goff in this game. I know they lost, but Jared Goff, 38 for 50. I have 52. I think it was actually 59 passing. 38 for 59, 494, 5 touchdowns. Jared Goff was playing out of his mind in this football game. And again, I know that's kind of a comeback. They had 0 points in the first quarter, but outside of that first quarter where they were down 14-0, like, this is a incredible performance by Detroit as well. And he was making plays with his legs. He had a couple times he extended plays. He ran for a first down. He kept a play alive and threw the ball downfield.
He had a massive 13 yards rushing.
But do you remember that? I remember He had this one run on third down. It was like 3rd and 10. But it's not the yards gained. It's the yards extended. There were like 2 or 3 times where he kept the play alive just enough to throw the ball downfield.
Yep.
My point is Jared Goff left it all on the field and came up short, yes. But look, man, I have no question Detroit can absolutely win a Super Bowl. Like, they're neck and neck with the best in the NFL. They got in the first quarter of this football game. But outside of the first quarter, because again, it was just the Bills executed at a high level all 4 quarters, and I think Detroit executed at a high level for 3 quarters. But like, that's to me a really marginal difference. Came down to 6 points, and I would really like a rematch of these teams in the Super Bowl. I think it'd be a great Super Bowl. It'd be really exciting and really interesting, and it'd be a similar, really, really good game.
Yeah, I mean, again, you take away that missed field goal from the Lions at the end of the first half, and I know that the Bills also missed one. And then you go into halftime, you're only down 14-21. This is very much a game. But then the Bills come out and score their first drive out. Then it's like, man, now we can't lean on Jahmyr Gibbs. We've already lost David Montgomery. How are we going to make this comeback? And promising to see that offense can get going without one of their key contributors. But it seems like Detroit right now has to win a certain way. They have to get out to a lead and they have to minimize your possessions. Now I'm thinking here to Philly in their last drive, the way they closed, they had like a 10-minute drive to close to close out the game. That's what the Lions are going to need to do. Jump out to a score and a half lead, have 6-7 minute drives, and just minimize the amount of opportunities they're going to have to expose their defense. Because both defenses were gassed.
Yeah.
From all the scoring, touchdown, changes of possession. The Lions truly have to protect their defense at this point.
It was weird, man. This game, it happened so fast. You like blink and the score is, what was it, 35-14?
And this was in Detroit too.
Boom. It was just like bang, bang. Because it wasn't like a bunch of big things. It was like, hey, we punted and they had the ball kind of 3 times in a row and they're up 3 touchdowns. Like it was really fast the way it worked out for the Detroit. And I was like, man, like you blink and you're just down. Like you didn't do much wrong. Like you had a drive, you had a punt, and a 3 and out, and then bam, you're down. And it's like, whoa, like that was really, really fast.
Yeah, and that's what's scaring me right now about this Buffalo team. And I'm not sure if it was just a product of the Lions defense kind of being not kind of in shambles, in absolute shambles, but they're scoring quick. They can score quickly, and they are gashing people over the middle of the field right now, which is insane to see. Shakira crossing the middle. Amari Cooper didn't have a reception, but he's going to be taking some of that attention. They got Keon Coleman back. Again, I was a big doubter of this Bills team early. Now I don't doubt the offense, and I don't doubt Josh Allen. I just doubt that defense holding up in the big spots.
They won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a row. Then they lost to the Rams, and then won here in Detroit.
And they caught the Rams on a heater night. We just saw the Rams play Thursday Night Football, and they looked like a shell of what they were doing to the Bills.
Yeah, what do you make of that? Like this, because I remember after that game, after they lost to the Rams, we're saying, the thing about Buffalo is, I remember thinking like, man, they probably win with Stephon Diggs. I think the difference was Stephon Diggs and Amari Cooper just aren't quite the same player. Here, Amari Cooper was a non-factor. It didn't matter. So I guess I don't mean to flip-flop on Buffalo, but it's like, man, they're grabbing my attention. They beat Kansas City. They lost badly to Baltimore at Baltimore. They lost to Houston, but now they've beat Detroit. They're also a different team than they were by their fourth game there when they played the Ravens. Right now, I think they're a better team than the Ravens. What do you make of this? Because I don't mean to flip flop. Like I remember though 2 weeks ago saying after the Rams loss, like, does this cast doubt? And I was kind of like, yeah, I do have doubts about them. So, what's your opinion on where the Bills stand today?
As long as Josh Allen plays like Superman, they are going to win games and potentially win the Super Bowl. And that's exactly how I see it. It's clear that Josh Allen is playing at such a high level right now, not just from the pocket, but extending plays and actually making plays. Now he's not extending and then lowering the shoulder and going into somebody. He's going down. He's stopping near the sideline. He's looking for that last second throw across the middle, and he has the arm talent to make that happen. So he's evolved his game. He can still run with the football, so there's always that threat. Again, if the answer there's only one answer to the question. Are the Bills going to win? Yes or no? And the answer to that is Josh Allen going to be Superman today? Yes or no? And the answer is yes, they win. If no, then they're probably not going to win the football game.
I want to shift because I think that really leads us into another team that had the 3 games I want to talk about. Really, the biggest one to me, they all happened at the same time. All were very similar, but actually I want to talk about Tampa because Tampa dominated the Chargers. They won 40-17, I believe. Let me just double check. I don't want to get the number wrong. Yeah, 40-17. It's the most points that the Chargers defense have given up all year. This is a really weird Tampa team. The Buccaneers are 8-6. They've got some bad losses. They lost 4 in a row. Baltimore, Atlanta, Kansas City, and the 49ers all back to back to back. Now they've won 4 in a row. And the truth is, Tampa is volatile, and they live or die with Baker. But on their best day, they can beat anyone. Like they've beat Detroit and Philly, both are 2-loss football teams. No one else has done that. Like one has victories like that in their resume. Baker just put up the most points the Chargers defense has given up all year. Baker in this game, 22 for 27, 288 yards, 4 touchdowns, had a pick. The pick did leave points for the Chargers. But yeah, man, without that pick, it's more like 40-10. I really, really think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not really a contender, not really a favorite, but certainly they're going to be a playoff team. And if they get hot, they're dangerous. They could appear in the Super Bowl. If Baker plays out of his mind, they could get there. I think that's kind of weird to say, but look at their resume. They have beat Detroit. They have beat Philly already. Baker at his best does what we saw Sunday. And so I just want to kind of give a little sideways look at Baker Mayfield. Like, hey, we talk about Josh Allen is when he plays like Superman, this team can do anything. Is Baker a similar player? Because again, it's volatile. It's not consistent. But if Baker gets hot and has this attitude for 3 weeks in a row in January, people are in trouble to play Tampa. Like, they really could go on a run, kind of like the Giants did as a wild card team back in the day. Am I off base? Am I crazy? What do you make of that thought?
I don't know. I don't know if off base is the right word. I like where your head is at. I just don't think that Tampa Bay could make an appearance in the Super Bowl. I think they obviously they're likely going to win their division and they'll have a playoff game. I'm not sure what that matchup exactly looks like right now. But to me, they were down 17-13 at halftime at this game and kind of getting dominated. And then some sort of switch flipped. And to me, it was the Chargers offense kind of falling apart. We know that they don't have the personnel to go toe-to-toe, especially with Tampa Bay. And once you kind of got out of that first half script, Todd Bowles, as great as he is, made a few adjustments. You're playing against a banged-up Justin Herbert, no J.K. Dobbins, a banged-up Lad McConkey. Like, there just wasn't much for the Chargers to have in that second half. And they started exposing their defense, which, again, has played great when the Chargers are able to dominate time of possession, run the football, and do it the Harbaugh way, right? As soon as you take that away, you got Mike Evans back, absolutely massive game from him, and things just started clicking and rolling. Again, obviously there'll be a playoff team, but to go as far as to say Super Bowl, I have more reservations about the team as a whole.
Here's a little bit more background on their resume, though. So they're 8-6. They're bad loss. They lost to Denver.
A lot of one-score losses.
5 of their 6 losses, and they're the good teams. They're Atlanta, sure, but then it's Baltimore, Kansas City, the 49ers, you fluctuate a lot, but at times have been really good. Like, again, they lost by 6 to Kansas City. They lost by 10 to Baltimore. And then they've beat Philly. They've beat Detroit. Like, they're neck and neck with the best. I don't think they are contender, but they're like looking at dinner, like, hey, can we sit down? And it's not really sure, but they could earn the right to get into the table and be at dinner. Have for lack of a better term, like they could get. I really think they could get to the Super Bowl if they play their best football. Now you can say that about a lot of people, but I actually don't. I guess maybe you couldn't. I don't know that every team actually has the firepower, the capability to do the couple things that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are capable of. And then on top of that, look at the injuries they've had. Yeah, they've got 6 losses, but this has been a really volatile, weird year from an injury standpoint for Tampa Bay.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying, this team gets healthy and gets hot at the end. They could make a really shocking run that, to me, wouldn't be shocking, just given it, hey, like their resume is actually better than you might realize. And again, it comes down to Baker. If Baker plays like a man on fire, like I think he did that against the Chargers in that second half. A switch flips. He's really comfortable. And if he can do that consistently, it's a big if. I just think they're dangerous. And they could ruin someone's good season. Like, they could take out a Detroit. They could take out a Philly. Like, they could ruin a Super Bowl contender season and play spoiler minimum at the end of the year.
I think that they could surprise Detroit. But teams that have a stronger defense, I think they're still going to have a tough time with. I'm not saying that they've struggled to put up points because that hasn't been an issue for Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
But a team that can minimize the run games, like you take Bucky, you take Rachaad White out, and you really put it on Baker's arm, that's when you start to see a couple of interceptions show up in the box score. He tries to make one more extra play when he should just throw it away, and that's the Baker that I'm nervous about.
Yeah, Baker's 3rd in touchdown passes this year. Like 4th in passing yards. Maybe it's what we're saying. I think Baker's having
he's having a fantastic
underrated year.
And maybe I'm just not willing to see Baker for the new Baker that he showed us last year and that he's absolutely excelled this year despite all the adversity. I don't know. I'm excited for him though. I'm excited to see how this shakes out, and seeing Bucky Irving, to me, again, University of Oregon guy, seeing him succeed in the NFL. I really didn't think he would, but man, he looks fantastic.
Do you have any thoughts about the Chargers? I was kind of disappointed. Like, there was a couple times, like Herbert took a really bad sack in the red zone that just ruined a drive. Like, I think Herbert wasn't his best. I know he's hurt, but there were a couple times it's like, dude, throw the ball away. Like, he made a couple bad decisions here against Tampa that were frustrating to me. What'd you make of it from a Charger standpoint?
For me, for the Los Angeles Chargers, you've lost 3 of your last 4. I think Herbert is just trying to do too much now. Because at first it was, to start the season, oh, great, I've got a run game now with J.K. Dobbins. Quentin Johnson's playing well. I've got Ladd. My defense is lights out. I don't have to do very much. But then as the season starts to wear on, people get tape, film. They understand what you're trying to do. They minimize that run game. Yeah, I just think that Justin Herbert is trying to make too much happen right now when he doesn't have the weapons to do so. And I think that that's putting him at risk. He's taking a lot of unnecessary shots and unnecessary sacks, and then he's putting the ball at risk in that same breath. And I think that's what's happening. He's just he wants to do better. He wants to do more, and I don't think that it's helping. It's like what we were talking about with C.J. Stroud earlier this year.
To put some context there, out of the 3 of the 4 losses, the Ravens by a touchdown. They lose to Kansas City by 2. Like their worst loss in that stretch is actually this game against Tampa. I don't think the Chargers are far off from where they want to be, but I think we've talked about this all year. Like they're just a player or two away, like an addition in free agency or the draft. They're really close though, and I think probably next year is the year where we're going to start to see, and really 2 years is where it's going to get interesting with the Chargers. But they're a year or two away from being a contender as well. I think they're just not quite at the top of the NFL yet, but they're very clearly a step below, but they're just not far off in my opinion.
Yeah, they're realistically, I think they'll get hot the second half of next year, depending on what they do in free agency. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they are still some personnel on the offensive side and some more responsible defensive players on the defensive side from being great. I'm looking at Derwin James. As great as he is sometimes, that dude loves to gamble. He's a gambler.
Yeah, it's a bad thing to have with the player in your secondary.
Yeah,
and the cost is big.
It's great sometimes, and he's physical in the run games, and you love a lot of things about Derwin James. But sometimes you're just like, what were you doing out there? And I can't play that position any better. And that's where I'll leave it.
It's weird. Ed Reed was a player who he took risks, I guess. Like he would like break. He'd just break to one side. A ball's going there, and he'd break on the ball like before the quarterback's even throwing it. And like if the quarterback didn't throw there, that's a risk. But because he knew it and it happened that way, like it ended up being just an incredible play. Like it's weird. Like I think players like Derwin James grew up watching Ed Reed and really brilliant safeties and realized like, hey, I got to take chances to make big plays. And for someone like Ed Reed, the cards fell that way every time for him. And for a guy like Derwin James, you're not Ed Reed. Like you're just not quite, I don't know how to put it any differently. But I understand the mindset of like, I want to go make a big play here.
Yeah.
And it just, the risk is bust.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's another team that I think had a chance to prove themselves this weekend. We look at Buffalo. They really that made a big statement. This team did not make a statement. This team, I thought, failed their first test of 3. The Steelers lost to Philly, and it was
handily.
It was worse than this box score would say. Like the final score, it was 27-13, so a 2-touchdown loss. It felt way more than that. The truth is, they got outplayed, they got outcoached. I thought it was a really dominant performance by Philly, even though the box score would only show a 2-touchdown victory. Like the way the game ended, you said it earlier, Philly had the ball, had a 21-play, 88-yard, 10-minute, 29-second drive just to end the game. They never got the ball back. The final 10 minutes of the game were just Philly plodding down the field like 3 yards at a time, basically. It was a dominant performance. And unfortunately, Russell Wilson got outplayed by Jalen Hurts and just wasn't what was needed at the quarterback position for Pittsburgh to make a difference and win this football game. I was disappointed. It's the first of 3. There's still more opportunities for Pittsburgh to prove their capability, but they're 10-4. Their next 2 weeks they play at Baltimore, then Kansas City. They finish with Cincinnati. The final 3 games are rough. I think it's possible they end the year 0-4, truly. I just don't know that. Now, Kansas City may or may not have Patrick Mahomes. That's interesting. We'll find out that later. Yeah. But even still, I'm not confident Russell Wilson's going to outplay Carson Wentz. I thought he was the obvious better quarterback than Jalen Hurts, and that was not what we saw on Sunday. What'd you make of the Steelers-Eagles game?
Yeah, I mean, after the fumble in the first quarter, then all of a sudden Philly turned it on. And I was a little bit stressed when that happened for Philadelphia. I'm like, oh my, they're going to fire Nick Sirianni mid-game. This is going to be over. But then they just flexed the muscle. And one thing I really love about Philly right now is their offensive line that I think struggled a little bit to start the year with Cam Jurgens at center has really started to come together. And, you got Mailata, and then you got Lane Johnson, you got Dickerson. Like, these guys are playing such good football together. And I know the run game wasn't the feature. I think we all could have expected that this week, given how much A.J. Brown was talking about not getting the football. And then all of a sudden, Brandon Graham saying that Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown were having a little bit of beef. We could have expected a heavier passing attack, and that's what we saw. I feel like most teams don't want to attack the Steelers vertically because they've got guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick back there being an absolute ball hawk, because you get such a rush from TJ Watt. Like, okay, we need to get the ball out early, and we need to run the football to minimize TJ Watt and Cam Hayward. But they went out there and they just threw it. And they really challenged the Pittsburgh Steelers defensively. And again, when they needed to with the run game, Saquon Barkley made some plays happen. But again, they dominated the line of scrimmage with that offensive line, and they look really scary.
What's kind of crazy about Philly is they lost Jason Kelce. Like, they lose their center, and yet they're still one of the most dominant teams at the line of scrimmage on the offensive side of the football. It's crazy what they pulled off this year in Philly. And to me, it's Philly or Detroit in the NFC. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, the Packers are sneaking up there for me right now with their performance against the Seahawks. But yeah, I would say that right now I'm probably going to give the nod to the Eagles, which you asked me 6 weeks ago. I would not have said that. Given the injuries to the Lions, given I still have a little bit of Sam Darnold mistrust, and the Packers I just need to see a little bit more maturity from. Yeah, I'd give it to the Eagles right now.
Yeah, with the Packers, it's the resume, the youth, and the drops that are like, they're third to me. Like, they're right there. I just don't trust them yet. That's the honest truth about the Packers. It's nothing against them. It's just I haven't seen enough from them. And we don't have years of seeing Jordan Love taking teams to the playoffs to have a reliable reason to believe in them yet. Yeah. If they're going to build trust, this is the year. I mean, but it's hard to believe in someone who you've never seen them succeed before, even though it's just from lack of opportunity.
And one thing that's been crushing it this year is just the defense has grown so much too. I think both sides of the football, I think earlier in the year, and maybe we talked about this around week 6 or 7, but they had 2 new coordinators coming in with Kellen Moore. You're not sure if your identity, are you going to be pass first with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, or are we going to be run first with Saquon Barkley? We figured out it was going to be Saquon Barkley. And then defensively, how do we want to play? Do we want to attack, what am I saying? Do we want to attack the passer here? Or do we want to like sit back, kind of play some zone and bend, don't break? But they found a way to be able to do both. They're great at rushing the passer, and Darius Slay has played one of his best years in the past couple since he's been in Philly. So the defense has grown, the offense has grown, and they're really starting to mesh and come together. Despite the outside noise and Sirianni somewhat being tough to stomach on the podium, this team is playing pretty cohesive football outside of last week. And you're going to have some, stinker games every once in a while, but they still won against a chippy team that was going to come out and give them their best. And then they show up to Pittsburgh and they just whoop their ass. It was impressive.
Vic Fangio's been a home run. Right now, on paper, Philly's the best defense in football from yards allowed. Like, that says everything to me.
They don't give up big plays. They do not give up big plays. I think the biggest one they had last week, I want to say it was not Van Jefferson, their other speedy guy, Calvin Austin. He had a great play, and outside of that, I don't think that there was any other great plays from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, they just couldn't produce anything to spark the offense. No big play over the middle, no big play over the sideline. And I think we've seen that 2 weeks now from Pittsburgh. Without George Pickens, what does that offense become?
Yeah, Vic Fangio took the job. He left Miami because his family is in Pennsylvania. And man, I just think that was a huge, huge move that might have ended up saving the job of Nick Sirianni, to be totally honest. And I just think that, we talk about Kellen Moore, we talk about the quarterback. I know my camera cut out. I don't care. I just think that the Vic Fangio addition is the sneaky one that's made just a massive, massive impact in Philly.
Yeah, and he's one of those Spagnuolo type guys who loves to give you a different look pre-snap than what you're seeing post-snap, and then the blitz packages.
Yeah.
They send pressure from everywhere all of the time. So at no point is your quarterback comfortable. It takes a true veteran, your Tom Brady types, honestly, even a guy like Joe Burrow to be able to dissect that defense in fractions of seconds. And that's what it's going to take, right? No team with a mediocre quarterback is going to be able to beat the Philadelphia Eagles this year. Whoever it is has to be an elite processor at the line of scrimmage in order to win that football game. Can you say that about every quarterback? Sure, but it's to a new level when you've got guys like Fangio, when you've got guys like Spagnuolo, when you've got guys like Brian Flores. You really have to be on your game.
Well, he's a cool, what I was talking about earlier with Joe Brady. Vic Fangio is a guy, he was a head coach briefly. It went terribly. And he's made it very, very clear. I never want to be a head coach again. He said, I'm very, very happy as a defensive coordinator. I don't want to do that role again. And he fits great. I think he could be the defensive coordinator for even if Nick Sirianni got fired, there's no reason to get rid of Vic Fangio. He's happy. He's earned his position. And I just think that's the thing with coordinators. If you're great at what you do, you'll always have a job. You don't have to worry about job security because you're good, you're innovating. And a guy like Vic Fangio can jump from team to team. Like he didn't want to be in Miami. He wanted to be closer to his family. Well, hey, there's a team in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, take a job. Like he can literally go anywhere and get a job because he's really great at what he does. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think other coordinators need to understand around the NFL.
Yeah. Those head coaching jobs are few and far between. Not all head coaching jobs are made equal. And being a head coach is entirely different than being a coordinator. It's you just have to play more of the political side, right? You got to manage egos. You got to have a few more conversations with the general manager. You got to have a few more conversations, with the owner. There's just so much more responsibility that falls on you as a head coach. You can't lock yourself in the dark room, watch film, and design plays. You got to be able to, manage an entire roster of guys, and that's hard.
Can we talk about Patrick Mahomes' injury?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
What do you make of it? Patrick Mahomes, Chiefs quarterback, they win 21-7 this weekend, but he's got a mild high ankle sprain. We don't know if he's going to miss time or not. Carson Wentz is the backup. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know what to think. I don't know. I mean, the Chiefs are fine. They're in a good, strong position. They may or may not be the number one seed if he leaves and takes some time off, but I think he'll be back healthy for the playoffs if he does take time off. Like, what do you make of this injury? What's the impact? Is it meaningful? Does it matter?
Yeah, it's meaningful because the people that you're racing for that number one spot against is the Buffalo Bills. And the Buffalo Bills, I think, have the Jets and the Patriots twice to close out this season. So they've got a cupcake walk, if we're being honest, to close out 3 weeks, right? And then if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, let's go ahead and take a look at what they've got going on for the rest. So you've got to play the Texans. That's a solid defense. You got to play the Steelers, a very good defense, and a Broncos, very good defense. And if Pat's not mobile, he's going to have a tough time running around trying to protect himself. So my thought is yeah, you're going to have to play Carson Wentz minimum against the Texans. It's more important that Pat Mahomes is healthy for the playoffs than he is healthy for having a bye. If you eventually have a bye, right? So you got to take this week and you got to evaluate it, and then you got to see how it feels against the Steelers, and then maybe let him play. But again, that's the big thing, is the fact that they need to win 2 of these games, and the Bills have a pretty easy path to win their last 3. And then the Bills have the tiebreaker. So it just really depends on how they want to manage it. They don't want to play an extra game if they don't have to. The Chiefs don't have the personnel this year. They are injury riddled all across the board. They're playing guys off the practice squad on that back end defensively. I think Cook and Trent McDuffie are the only guys alive. So without Pat, a guy who's been able to not have a spectacular season, but make the big plays on 3rd down, on 4th down when they need it, get scoring drives when they need it. If you don't have Pat to be able to do that for you, it's going to be tough to close out this year. So, man, a lot of word salad there, but he's got to rest for a minimum 1 game, and then you got to see how he feels. And then see the result of the Bills. You can just kind of play the 2 in tandem and see what works out.
What you said, though, is that it really matters in the playoffs. Like that's when Mahomes needs to be his best. He needs to be mobile. He needs to have every tool available to him. It's not worth to make him gut through 3 games and never get healthy, so that in the playoffs, he isn't mobile. He can't run around. He can't do what makes him a special quarterback. I think with that logic, I would almost rather play another game with him healthy in the playoffs, even if if they don't have the bye,
Right.
but they've got Mahomes fully healthy. That's more dangerous and more beneficial than gutting through 3 games and never healing and staying injured. It's interesting. I guess you're right, though. It is meaningful. We'll see what happens. And I think Carson Wentz has an opportunity here to be kind of a hero in Kansas City. They're 13-1. The Steelers are not, how do I say this? They're a good football team, but that's a winnable game. Good defense.
It's a winnable game.
An unimpressive Russell Wilson at times. He's great sometimes. He didn't, I think, do what he needed to this weekend. But I'm just really, really fascinated, like how Carson Wentz, if given the chance, is going to play. What do you expect from him?
Man, I expect them to keep it on the ground. This week, a heavier dose of Isaiah Pacheco. He's had a couple of weeks with some split carries with Kareem Hunt to try and get his legs back under him. But I expect a heavy dose of Isaiah Pacheco. I think they're going to lead with that. Carson Wentz, though, he's a mobile guy. We haven't seen him play significant football since he was Commander Carson. That's the last time we really saw. That's the last time we really saw him play.
Uh-huh.
So maybe he's been able to sit back, learn a little bit. Maybe he has not necessarily a career revival, but he doesn't turn the ball over, which was a big thing for him in his previous. If he doesn't turn the ball over, they'll be okay, I think. He's got the strength with his body to make plays with his legs and some speed. He's got a strong enough arm. I worry about the receiving talent and him throwing into tight windows. I didn't see much of that from Carson Wentz, even when he was at his peak in Philly. And so right now, he doesn't have a bunch of receivers who can separate. How is he going to deliver the football and have faith that he's throwing guys open?
I don't think Andy Reid and Carson Wentz ever crossed over in Philly, did they?
No, Andy Reid was long gone.
Yeah,
that was Doug Peterson time already.
Yeah. Okay, I'm trying to remember how that worked out, because it was Chip Kelly actually, and then it was Andy Reid, then Chip Kelly, then am I right? Yeah.
Something like that.
So yes, something to that effect. My point is this: it's the best coach that Carson Wentz has ever had. Now, here's my understanding though of practice in Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes takes every single first team rep all season. Like Carson Wentz has not played with the ones at any point this year. Like that's how that works in Kansas City. They're one of the few teams that's like, yeah, our backup doesn't get snaps. Carson, if Mahomes doesn't play, we're screwed anyway. So I don't know what to expect. And I just think it's really interesting. An already good game is now even more interesting with the thought of the big question: how does Carson Wentz play against Houston?
Yeah, I think we're going to see Andy Reid dip into probably some of the stuff that he did in Philadelphia. You're probably going to see a little bit more sprint out, a little bit more play action, a little bit more boot, things that Carson Wentz is comfortable doing. That's what he did with Doug Peterson in Philly and was successful. But they're going to want Carson Wentz moving. And let's not forget, this offensive line is battered too. They don't have a left tackle. They don't have a right guard, right tackle. I can't remember. Like they're depleted on their offensive line as well. They're going to want Carson Wentz on the move, and they want to minimize the pass rush that can get going.
Yeah, their left tackle's hurt in Kansas City.
They're like 3 left tackles deep at this point, I swear.
What I will say, Carson Wentz struggled to stay healthy his entire career. Like the 1 year, 2017, he looked like he was going to be MVP. Then he got hurt. Nick Foles comes in, they win a Super Bowl. 2 games from Carson Wentz might be great because he doesn't have enough time to play to get hurt. I think he could give us 2 great games. Maybe not, but it's not off the table that Carson Wentz comes out and is like outstanding against Houston and really good against Pittsburgh and runs around and does Carson Wentz stuff. Because remember, Carson Wentz, which we didn't see a healthy Carson Wentz very often, but when he was healthy, like ran for touchdowns, ran people over, had his cannon of an arm, like did all kinds of crazy stuff physically.
He was the runaway MVP player in 2017.
Yeah.
Until he broke his leg.
Yeah. Yeah. Although as a torn ACL, I think against the Rams. I'm trying to remember. Whatever it was. So yeah, I think we're in agreement then that maybe Carson Wentz looks really good too, given the opportunity for a brief stint.
And again, nobody's seen him in a while. We've talked about what we might see from him, but DeMeco Ryans, as he's preparing for this game, he doesn't know what to do, right? and there's still a chance that Pat could play this week. We're not entirely sure yet, and I know that the Chiefs are going to wait till the last possible second to maybe make that designation. But if Carson Wentz does play, you've got no idea what to expect. So he could look really good because you're going to have to roll a relatively generic defense out there just back. Okay, like we just got to see how they're going to come and attack our defense, and then we'll make some adjustments off that, right? And then follow that up the next week. Steelers probably start prepping for some things that they saw the previous week, and you don't know. So some confusion could be created for both of these defenses. Yeah, it's infinitely interesting. And I saw a tweet about how funny it would be for Carson Wentz to go in and then somehow lead the Chiefs to winning the Super Bowl, just like Nick Foles did to him. And then they build a statue outside Arrowhead. That'd be funny.
I know that would be. I think the tweet you sent me was like Carson Wentz has a chance to do the funniest thing, right?
Yeah,
like,
it'd be hilarious, but also be extremely vindicating for him, right? Like he has after Philly, and I think that things went wrong in Philly more mentally than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes to Washington. I can't remember if he had a stop somewhere in between, but he just hasn't really had a chance to get his feet back under him. Maybe Andy Reid is the answer to that.
Yeah, Washington certainly was not a good opportunity. I think that's worth saying. Like they were just a bad organization, top to bottom, when he was there.
And he did some time with Sean McVay as well as the backup. Yep. So he's been to some QB, gurus the past couple of years. Maybe he's got a little something new to his game. We'll see.
Quarterback rehab, dude. He'll be the next backup quarterback in Minnesota. Like they just keep snagging up former first-round quarterbacks, man.
Keep adding, keep stacking.
I think the entire quarterback room right now in Minnesota. I don't know who they're. I think they've got 3 quarterbacks on the roster right now. So
they got
Sam
4.
Darnold. Well, I think there's. I think J.J. McCarthy in my mind doesn't count, but that's the first round pick. Okay. Daniel Jones, and then there's like one other guy. I forget. Is it Jaron Hall? There's someone out on that roster. It might be the kid from Southern Mississippi.
They put the graphic up literally on the Monday night broadcast. Now I can't remember the last
name. Could that be who it is?
Nick Mullins. It is Nick Mullins.
Yeah, Nick Mullins.
Was he wasn't a first round guy, was he?
No.
Okay,
no. But like, it's weird to have a roster technically with 3 first round quarterbacks: Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold, and JJ McCarthy, like that.
Yeah.
And then who knows who they're going to add next year? They just become like the vacation rehab center for first round quarterbacks. It seems like in Minnesota.
Sign me up. They got some nice facilities over there.
Hey, and they pay well. NFL salary, even as a backup, is pretty damn good.
Yeah, NFL pays good. I'm thinking about getting into it. We'll see.
Yeah. Next backup quarterback for the Vikings, Nathan Hawthorne. Let's talk about the playoff picture because it's interesting to me. In the AFC, you've got Kansas City currently not secure, but currently the number 1 seed at 13-1, followed by the number 2 seed of the playoffs started today, Buffalo at 11-3. Right now, leading the AFC North is the Steelers at 10-4, and then really squarely winning their division in the AFC South is Houston at 9-5. Then the wild card spots, if the playoffs started today, would be the Baltimore as the 5th seed. They're 1 game behind Pittsburgh in the North Division. Denver as a playoff team at also 9-5, and then the 8-6 Chargers at the number 7 seed. I think Denver really surprises me. Like these are a lot of good teams, a lot of 9-5. Houston, Baltimore, Denver. I think Pittsburgh's kind of a fraud, and then Buffalo and Kansas City at the top. What stands out to you when we talk about and you kind of look at the AFC playoff picture right now?
Baltimore's position. You don't want to have to play Baltimore in your first round matchup. Again, because of Lamar Jackson, because of Derrick Henry. I know their defense isn't very scary this year, but that's not a first round matchup that you want to have, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're Houston, right, that's not what you want. Say the Buffalo Bills, drop 2 of these next games. That's not who you want, or you don't want the Texans, right? But yeah, to me, the position of the Ravens right now is really surprising. And I think that might change, honestly, with the Steelers, kind of depending on how this closes out. I don't think the AFC playoff picture is weird. I think the Ravens are the scariest team. That's not the Chiefs or the Bills. But then all the other teams I'm not like that stoked about, if that makes sense. So just as long as you don't get matched up with the Ravens, you're mostly fine.
You have a lot of good stories in the AFC. Like, hey, Denver making a playoff game is really, really cool. And the Chargers, if they can make it in with Jim Harbaugh year 1, like that's really cool. Like there are things like, oh, that's kind of neat on paper, but there's not a lot of people that like, I think the Steelers are another team that like, hey, they made a playoff game. That's really cool. They made that happen, but it's not exactly a threatening team either.
Right. Right. And say Kansas City, loses one of these next couple games, all of a sudden they're a 3 or 4 seed. You probably don't want to play Kansas City round one either. So it's weird how little football is left, but that little football is so meaningful right now.
Now in the NFC, the number one seed, if the playoffs started today, would be the Lions at 12-2. I think they are. To me, they're the best team in football. I do think Philly challenges them a lot. I think Philly really, their ability to dominate the line of scrimmage. I think they got more firepower at the wide receiver position. Jamison Williams is awesome. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a couple drops actually against Buffalo, but I think A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are kind of the best 1-2 combination right now in football at the receiver position.
Yeah.
Tampa's would be the number 3 seed at 8-6, winning the NFC South. And then the Rams right now somehow still lead the NFC West at 8-6. The Vikings are 12-2 and a wild card team. It shows how good the NFC North is. Packers would be the 6th seed at 10-4, and then Washington would be the last wild card spot at 9-5. I'll just open the floor to you. What stands out to you about the NFC playoff picture?
It was weird. Last year and a couple years before, we've been talking about the AFC playoff picture and how dominant it was. The Super Bowl winners guaranteed to come from the AFC. These are the best teams. NFC is so weak. Now, all of a sudden, in 1 year, the NFC is extremely, extremely scary. So the Lions, again, they got better. The Eagles, they got a lot better. Tampa Bay is playing freaky football. You're never sure. Green Bay, better with the addition of Josh Jacobs. I told you guys. Minnesota, again, like you said, being a 5 seed is insane. Right? So that to me is what stands out, is just the depth and the quality of these football teams in the playoffs. You're going to have some really, really difficult matchups no matter where you sit. So you got to pray, if you're Detroit, that you hold on to that bye, because the last thing you want to do is have to run into a feisty Washington team or a Green Bay team. Like, that's just not what you want.
Yeah, Washington and Green Bay are really dangerous, and I think could play spoiler to a really good football team. Yeah. If not Green Bay, I think Green Bay could make a run. I don't think Washington could make a run, but Washington could surprise someone and win a wild card game for sure.
I think they could.
I don't know who's going to make it out of the West. Right now it's the Rams. They're 8-6. Seattle's the number 8 seed. They're also 8-6.
Yeah.
Arizona is 7-7. The 49ers are 2 games back. Like, it's not a done deal in the NFC West. I think Seattle is going to win the division. Do you have any predictions there? I think it's really hard to predict that, but I'm curious if you have any sense in any direction.
Yeah, I think the Rams are going to end up winning the division, if I'm being honest with you. While I like Seattle, I still think that they're a year away from being better. You guys tried to tell me that Geno Smith's not the problem. I just watched him get absolutely flabbergasted and confused by Jeff Hafley. You've been in the NFL way too long to be looking that confused and that incompetent as Geno Smith, right? The only thing that you can do is find Jackson Smith and Jigba over the middle. You can't unlock DK Metcalf. And I know they were playing without Kenneth Walker, but it's not like Zach Charbonnet is any sort of slouch. For that reason, again, I do think that the Los Angeles Rams are going to ultimately pull it out. I think that Sean McVay is just a more experienced coach coming down the stretch here and is going to have his guys ready to play these meaningful football games.
I want to give a shout out to a wide receiver who I think deserves a lot of respect, who had a insane day. Do you know where I'm going with this? I think you do, but
if you say Davante Adams, just turn the page, bro.
Really? Well, yeah. So the Jets beat the Jaguars 32-25 this past weekend. Davante Adams, 9 catches, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns on 12 targets. Aaron Rodgers had 16 completions on the day. 9 of them went to Davante Adams. So he had more completions to Davante Adams than anyone else. And I just think that's... I'm not going anywhere with this. Like, there's no, like, we learned so much, or the Jets are, they're 4-10. They're not interesting. It's not a game I watched. I don't care. Right. I just think it deserves kind of a little salute and a tip of the cap to Davante Adams. That's an insane, really dominant day. What do you make of that?
It's not just that the stat line's insane. He did it all in the second half. In the second half, he had a nothing burger. And I know that fantasy managers were screaming for their lives that he had nothing. And then the second half, he just went absolutely ballistic. Again, that's the Aaron Rodgers to Davante Adams connection. sorry, Garrett Wilson, you're kind of the guy on the outside looking in now, as talented as you are. But yeah, awesome. But I'm pretty sure Jamar Chase has already done that several times this year.
Yeah, no. I mean, how old is Davante Adams? He's
That's fair.
31. It's a second round pick in 2014. I don't know. I just respect it. I'm like, wow, that's a really late in the year. Was it week 15? And at 31 years old and a 4-10 season, you just go off like that. Like, that's cool to see. I just respect that.
Yeah, it's just hopium though. Like, you beat the Jaguars. Yeah, you looked good in that second half offensively, but again, it was the Jaguars, a team that's not good. All you're doing is giving yourself further justification to be like, you know what? I think maybe like next year, if we shore up a few things, like we could run this back, and don't fall into that trap. Get Aaron Rodgers out of there. Keep Davante Adams if you want, although he's pretty much a package deal with Aaron Rodgers. But just move on. If you're bringing in a new head coach, just move on from that entirely. Woody Johnson apparently has been heard to say that he wants to be more hands off now, because now these these potential head coaching candidates are like what Ben Johnson said, like, I want a head coach, or I want an owner that does this and blah, 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 and whatever. Right. So he's got to peel back and be like, hey, like, I should probably let the football guys do the football stuff. But again, they got to completely reset that thing in New Jersey.
The Jets have him under contract for 2 more years if they want him, or they have a potential out with $8 million of dead cap. So I'm not really sure where Davante Adams is going to be next year. I don't know if the Jets are going to want to pay him or not.
Kansas City.
That's what I wanted. I want to see him play on a team that's a contender. You just say the word hopium, and I guess that's fine from a Jets perspective. For me, the word that comes to mind with this performance from Davante Adams is professionalism. It's a lost year. It's the end of the year. And for him to just show up and show out and put together a great performance like this in a meaningless football game, in a meaningless season, at this stage of his career, just speaks to his, I think, character actually is kind of the word. And I just respect it a lot.
I would argue less character, more pride. I don't want my stats to look bad. Where I've had year after year after year after year of all pro performances, right? I don't want to have a lackluster year at the end of my career for people to validate me being washed, right? That's also part of it.
Yeah, Davante Adams doesn't come across to me like a very ego-driven guy, but it's kind of still a statement like, just in case you forgot who I am, like, put some respect on my name. But I just can't hear him saying that. It's never been the energy that he gives out. You see him in, documentaries and stuff. Like, he just seems like a down-to-earth, humble, relaxed, chill guy. I mean, I'm sure you get him with the boys. Anyone's like, yeah, you couldn't, blah, blah, blah. But he's a quiet confidence rather than the loud, confidence you see from a receiver. He doesn't seem cocky at all. But it's nice to have the reminder, like, no, that's who Davante Adams still is.
He's got some Rodgers-esque body language at times. I think that's the nation. You know exactly what that means. You know exactly what that means when I say Rodgers-esque body language. But that's, the symptom of playing with the guy.
How dare you drop that football?
Yeah, what are you talking about? This guy said on Hard Knocks that he wanted to kill himself, that he was tired of being with the Raiders. What do you mean? Anyways, again, shout out Davante Adams. Man's still doing it.
Let's look ahead to next weekend, because next weekend is really just a Saturday again is a problem. I have like my family Christmas get together. There is 6 incredible football. I guess there's 5 incredible football games next Saturday.
I've got that too.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have, but it
is a good problem to have.
It just means that there won't be a boring moment, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over for breakfast, and then there's like a big gap in the middle of the day before like the dinner thing. So I'll hang out, I'll watch football and do very little, and it'll be a good day. But the weekend actually starts on Thursday. It's a good game on Thursday night. Denver and the Chargers. What do you make of that game? What do you expect from these two teams? Right now, it would be the final 2 wildcard spots of the AFC playing head-to-head.
This game either ends 12-9 or it ends like 35-42. Something like that. Either both defenses are going to show up and both offenses are going to sputter, or both offenses are going to find a way to move the football to win the game. Both teams are going to be playing out of desperation, trying to get one of those playoff spots. You've already got the Chiefs topping the AFC West, so who can jockey for that second spot? It's going to be very contentious. But again, it's Thursday night. It's short week. It's going to be I have a tough time imagining, with the amount of effort that was exerted from both teams on Sunday, I have a tough time thinking that this game is going to be high scoring. It's
They
going to be
played
a
each
field, it's
other.
going to be a field goal off.
They played each other week 6. The Chargers won 23-16. Now, these teams are very different than they were week 6. I think that Herbert's banged up. I think Denver's better and more polished. Is there any world where Denver kind of beats the brakes off the Chargers and wins like 36-10 or something like that? Is that a possibility? And I think it's, if anyone wins a blowout, it's more likely Denver than the Chargers. What say you?
Man, you're right though. If there is to be a blowout, it would be the Broncos.
Probably unlikely to happen though, right?
Yeah, just Thursday Night Football again. I have a tough time saying it. I think that they're more equipped to have that blowout with Cortland Sutton. You got Troy Franklin over the top, but again, like the weapons aren't amazing. It's not that you got to take away a certain somebody, otherwise, the whole defensive plan and structure is going to fall apart. So, yeah, I don't see it being a blowout.
So Thursday night is a good game. Then Friday, we've got another game. Indiana against Notre Dame. It's weird. It's at Notre Dame Stadium. I don't know. I didn't know that's how that worked. I didn't realize the first round was
home games.
Like you get a home game in the college football playoff.
Which to me is so lame. You're telling me you go undefeated, the number 1 seed, and you don't even get a home game for your playoff? And I know that there's the requirements of the bowl games like the Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl, whatever, the old BCS bowls. You have to live that through. But you got to find a way to reward the teams that went 13-0, the number 1 seeds. Or not number 1 seeds, I guess, but the top 4 seeds who get their buys. Like you've got to reward that.
Well, I also, like, teams just got a bye week. Like, how good is that? You get 2 weeks off if you're the number 1 seed. It's an imperfect, like, there are things to be complained about with the 16 team or the 12 team playoff. It's imperfect. I think better than it was. And I have no, like, I try to have the context, like, no matter what happens, we're going to find a thing to complain about. But
sure, there's
still little weird things going on. But anyway, Indiana, Notre Dame, both teams are 11-1. It's actually a great matchup to me. Do you have any expectations, any thoughts? I'm not too familiar with either team, but I'm going to watch. It'll be fun. I think they're very similar teams. You got a Rourke twin, or brother. You got, I forget the name of him right now, the former Duke quarterback, Riley Leonard at Notre Dame. They're really similar, capable, interesting football teams. It's funny. They're also both from Indiana, like Indiana against Notre Dame. They're both the 2 Indiana schools. Like, it's a huge matchup. I don't know that there's going to be a big home presence from Notre Dame because I don't know how, like, people are going to have a hard time traveling to this one. So what do you make of this game from that standpoint?
Notre Dame's going to beat the brakes off them. This game's not going to be close.
Really?
Notre Dame's going to probably win 40 some odd to 10. Their defense is so fast and so physical. Riley Leonard he's grown a lot this year and he's doing just enough. He's not doing too much. I just don't think, much like we saw Indiana against Ohio State, I feel like we're going to see something similar. There's just a different class. There's a different weight in the personnel of these 2 teams. And I think that Notre Dame walks away with it.
Is this the biggest thing to happen in Indiana in like a long time? I know Hoosiers basketball is a big deal. Notre Dame's a big deal, but this has got to be like the happening thing this weekend in Indiana, right?
I mean, yeah. What else would be happening? The Pacers got a game or something? No.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting. It's rare to see like 2 teams in the same state play each other in a college football playoff game like this. I think it's pretty cool.
I don't know what the forecast says, but there's a chance we could have a little bit of a snow game out there. That could be a cold game in South Bend.
27 degrees currently.
It's crispy.
Also 27 at Beaver Stadium in University Park, Pennsylvania, where Penn State plays. That's the first game on Saturday. SMU plays at Penn State. I think that's a blowout, probably. Although I think SMU is a more capable offense. It'd be interesting to see if Penn State's quarterback problem led to them losing a playoff game at home. Like, that would be really fun and enjoyable for me. That'd be tragic.
That would get Drew Aller absolutely walked out of Penn State. I know that he talked about coming back next year. I saw something floating around about that he's going to come back next year. I don't know if Penn State wants that.
It's because the NFL said we don't want you.
Yeah. Here's my deal. I see this being like the game against Oregon, but flopped with a little more distance. So I think we're going to see this Penn State team probably pull away just because they're deeper, stronger, bigger, faster. But SMU is going to be able to put up some points. I don't think they're going to get absolutely blanked, but this could be like a 35-21 type game.
Yeah, I think Penn State dominates the line of scrimmage, and that's the thing. Like Penn State's great up front everywhere. Like they've got talent across the board. They just don't have a great quarterback.
Hey, whoever that tight end is, I should have learned his name. That man's going to eat. He's going to run over SMU.
Yeah. How cool would it be though if SMU played spoiler and won? I mean, that'd be fun.
It would justify the purpose of this 12-team playoff. Because if there's no upsets, and like we're saying, like Notre Dame blows out Indiana and Penn State blows out, oh my goodness,
SMU,
goodness, we're literally talking about it right now. Then everyone's going to be like, okay, well, why do we even expand this thing? Maybe we need to shrink this to 8, right? We'll always find something to complain about, but we're going to need at least one upset, I think, to validate this whole new 12-team playoff. Otherwise, go to 8.
I'm going to do something weird. I'm going to go in chronological order. So SMU plays Penn State at 9 a.m. Pacific.
Okay.
10 a.m. Pacific on Saturday. Houston against Kansas City kicks off. The Houston Texans playing Kansas City in Kansas City, maybe without Patrick Mahomes. It's actually a great game. It's a 9-5 Texans team, a playoff team playing the number 1 seed, 13-1 Kansas City Chiefs. That's awesome. And I'm going to have that on multi-view on YouTube TV, just watching both games. I'm sure that's possible. I've never done that with college and NFL at the same time, but I did it with NFL and baseball, so I would assume that's possible. It's going to be messy and weird this Saturday. So again, I'm going to go through it in chronological. So college, NFL, college again. What do you make of this game? I think the storyline is Carson Wentz. What say you?
Yeah, it's just what does Carson Wentz do? And
does he play?
They're going to play. It's a short week. I forgot it was on Saturday. There's no reason to trot out Pat Mahomes this week. Unless it really is minor, and he is completely fine, there's no reason to trot him out. Okay, you've secured your playoff spot. You can lose one of these games. At least let Carson Wentz go out there and try and win it for you. But yeah, he's going to be the story.
So then at 1 o'clock, you've got Clemson at Texas. Number 12 ranked Clemson at number 5 Texas. 2 orange teams, I guess. I think it's a blowout. But I think it's possible Dabo Swinney pulls it off. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Texas, how do I say this nicer than this? They fuck it up and lose to Clemson.
Yeah.
Unlikely, but on the table. What do you say?
Just don't count out Dabo Swinney and Clemson. I know that they didn't have an amazing year this year. Up until kind of the end, they really started to come together, and obviously they're in the playoff. Sark leaves a bad taste in my mouth in these big games. And I know he was in the CFP last year as a top seed, but you've lost 2 games now to Georgia. You know, Quinn Ewers isn't looking fantastic, and people are rumbling for Arch. So I'm curious if there's a little bit of internal unrest that's going to metastasize and then show its face during this game.
On paper, Texas should dominate. Like Texas should win 40-12.
This game should not be close.
Yeah.
Should not be close.
I don't trust Texas, man. I also don't, the pomp and the circumstance. Like when they played Georgia recently, I remember like all these fans, everyone's taking pictures. Like Texas viewed it like we've arrived. It's a big event. And Georgia's walked in and beat their ass. And I just wonder if that happens again. Is there going to be lots of pomp and circumstances and all the celebrities and all the influencers and pictures, and Clemson just comes out, does business, and wins a football game rather than worrying about all the circumstance? Is that possible? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, absolutely. If this game is in Texas, it's in Austin.
Yep.
Yeah, so you're going to have Matthew McConaughey on the sidelines. That other celebrity, Glenn Powell. Everyone's going to show up. Yeah. Lamborghinis in the parking lot. Private jets flying. Like it's going to be all recruits are going to be invited. You know, all the guys who have signed early are going to be there. It's going to be a big game. Right? There's no understating the pomp and circumstance. You're playing an SEC championship essentially over again. Is Georgia your opponent? No, but like you said, that everything surrounding this moment, like that's going to be it that Saturday night in Austin. So it'll be important for them to show up and dominate the football game, and we'll see if they can do that.
So head to head against, I think the atmosphere is going to be great. Fun game in Texas, like that. If you had to pick one game to watch, you watch that game. Just I think the crowd's going to be into it. It's a playoff game. It's meaningful. It's amazing. If you want to, at the same exact time, again, NFL, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? I don't know. But so that game starts at 1, Clemson, Texas. 30 minutes later at 1:30, the Steelers start playing the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore, a 10-4 Steelers team winning the AFC North against the 9-5 Ravens. That's the battle for the division. It's a huge test for Pittsburgh, who came up short against Philly. The Ravens just dominated the Giants. I think it's possible the Ravens dog walk the Steelers, honestly. But I think you'll find a better atmosphere at Texas, but certainly a good game here between the two NFL teams as well. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. I'm sure that, Baltimore wants a mulligan on that previous matchup where they couldn't get a touchdown on the board.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. They lost a game where the Steelers had 6 field goals.
Yes, that's what we're trying to say here. They're going to play harder. They're going to play different. They know that the 1 seed is on the line, in not the AFC 1 seed, but the top of their division is on the line. So they're going to be balling out for it. They're going to pull out all the stops, all the tricks in the bag. Nothing's going to be held back. It's going to be a really fun football game.
And then here's the big one. This is the game, and it stands alone. The NFL had the wisdom, at least, say we're not going to put a game up against this. You got number 9 Tennessee against number 8 Ohio State at Ohio State in Columbus. Both teams are 10-2. I think Tennessee's probably got a better quarterback, actually, with Nico Iamaleava. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I don't think Tennessee winning would be an upset, really, but I think it's very much on the table. Tennessee beats Ohio State. What do you make of this one?
We're going to see a game similar to how Ohio State and Penn State played out. Both quarterbacks aren't superb, although Nico is, he's growing, right? It's his first year. It's just going to be tough for either team to score points again because of the limited quarterback and 2 great defenses. Tennessee, great defense. Ohio State this year, great defense. It's going to be a tough, grind it out, struggle it out game. Again, relatively low scoring. I think you're probably looking at like a 24-16 type game. Every possession is going to matter. You're going to have to take your field goals. You're going to have to make some aggressive 4th down calls. But this is going to be a dogfight.
I think it's going to be. I like Tennessee to win here. Honestly, I think Ohio State's got better players. I just don't trust Will Howard. I think Josh Heupel is really under the radar and really low key and a great coach. And I don't know. I think Tennessee's got a shot to play. Again, I don't know if it's a huge upset if the number 9 team beats the number 8 team, but I would enjoy watching Tennessee going to Ohio State and winning. That'd be fun for me.
I would love that.
So that's like Saturday. Saturday is insane. There is Monday Night Football games this weekend. I'm not that excited about them. Really, to me, the weekend rounds out with 2 good games on Sunday. You got Eagles, Washington, the 12-2 Eagles, an in-division matchup against a 9-5 Commanders. And then you got Vikings, Seahawks. We'll talk about that later. But what do you make of Eagles, Commanders first?
I think that the Eagles are going to do what they did last time and just kind of body bag them. Yeah. Eagles are hitting their stride right now.
Yep.
Washington, well-coached team, and Jaden Daniels has played great this year. They just don't have the personnel top to bottom to match up with this team. The way that Philly's controlling the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football is just unmatched. You got Jalen Carter, then obviously you got Cam Jurgens and the rest of the crew on that offensive line. Like, Commanders, I'm sorry, you just don't have the gas to keep up with this team.
Yeah. And then the afternoon game, Vikings Seahawks is really interesting. That's a potential playoff game. Yeah, they're currently 2 playoff teams. I think the Vikings win. They're going to be at Seattle. I think the Vikings are a much better team, though, top to bottom. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, this is probably going to be a 10-win team, or a 10-point win by the Vikings here. Again, Geno Smith or Sam Howell, whoever gets rolled out there, because obviously things weren't 100% towards the end of that game last week for the Seahawks against the Green Bay Packers. But yeah, the Vikings are a better team. I think the confusion that Brian Flores will create on defense is going to make it really, really tough for either Sam or Geno to see the field. I do think that the run game of the Vikings is not strong enough to stop this run defense that the oh my goodness, the Seattle Seahawks have. Like in the second half, they completely shut out Josh Jacobs. So it's going to be really interesting. But yeah, I just think that the Vikings have more continuity in terms of head coach and the rest of the team around them. Yeah, that's just how I see it. I started to over-explain that there, but
that's okay.
Yeah, just definitely the Vikings win that game.
I think the interesting matchup is Mike McDonald's defense against Sam Darnold, a really good, smart defensive coach against a quarterback who I think Sam can't get through a game without a bad interception. I think that's just who he is. Like that's just how he plays. Will that matter? I don't know, but I think there's going to be an interception. Can they turn it into multiple? Can they turn it into points? Is it a pick six? Like, does that keep Seattle in the game? That kind of thing.
Yeah, the thing that has kept Seattle in the game has been their defensive front. They've been able to step up at times and prevent the run game. But again, you've got Devin Witherspoon, you've got Tariq Woolen on the outside. If you're looking for two guys that you want to match up against Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, it's not 1-to-1 perfect, but you'll take those odds if you can get some pressure on the quarterback. Now they're on their third left tackle. Obviously, they lost Darisaw, and then I can't remember who they lost tonight. But the Vikings are depleted on that left side of the line. So, anything could happen in this game. But yeah, I do think that the Vikings still win.
The most frustrating part of the Pete Carroll era in Seattle, I think there was two things actually. It was up front. The offensive line was never where they needed to be. And then the defensive line, despite trying, like they just never could get a presence up front on the defensive side of the football. Mike McDonald has been I don't think they could have hired a better coach given the personnel they have on defense. And
that's a great call.
Like the secondary already had great people and great personnel, but he's turned, I think, kind of some subpar or personnel that had potential on the defensive front line and turned them into a good defensive line in Seattle. I think that's been just I have a big storyline, but definitely like a notable, like, wow, what an improvement for Seattle.
Yeah, and who had a great run defense last year? The Baltimore Ravens. Not Colin McDonald. That's a guy I used to work with. Mike McDonald goes over to Seattle, and it takes some time, but you're starting to see the effects of his coaching, his defensive scheme, getting free tacklers to the football, stalling things up front. Like they're starting to look a lot better. Again, I just don't. It's just not their year this year.
I don't need you to say anything about this. I want to just acknowledge on Sunday Night Football, Tampa plays the Cowboys. I think it's an opportunity for Baker on a national stage to have a great game, have 4 touchdowns, dominate Dallas. He's from Texas. I believe grew up a Cowboys fan. Like it'll be a big moment for Baker. It'll be meaningful. It's at Cowboys Stadium. And I think Baker has a chance to show, like, again, like I said earlier, I think he's really dangerous. And I think he could make a statement on Sunday Night Football. And then the Saints play at Green Bay on Monday Night Football. Only 31 degrees right now in the forecast. I still don't trust that. I think it's going to be cold as Dickens. I think the Saints are a fish out of water in that game. They're 5-9 against a playoff team. They're from Louisiana playing in the cold in Wisconsin. Like that's just a blowout waiting to happen in Green Bay on Monday night.
Yep. Recipe for disaster.
Do you want to answer any Patreon questions today to end the show?
Oh man, that'd be exciting. Let's do it.
I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. We can get as many as you want and call it whenever. Question number 1 is from Josh about Zac Taylor. He says, Zach and Nathan, at what point do the Bengals move on from Zac Taylor? I know Ben Johnson's name gets thrown around constantly since he's the top coaching candidate. However, him with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase seem like a match made in heaven. I think both the Bengals and Johnson should be doing anything in their power to get an interview in motion. What are your thoughts? What do you make of that thought? Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator, as head coach in Cincinnati. I don't think that's what they need, but I'm curious what your thought is.
Yeah, that's not what they need. Zac Taylor's an offensive guy, and that offense is putting up crazy points. They're just fine. What they need to do is learn how to have longer, more sustained drives to protect their defense, and they probably just need more defensive personnel. Like Lou Anarumo has been a great defensive coordinator for years. While they haven't been a top of the league defense, they've been a very timely defense, and they get a lot of sacks. They're very opportunistic defense under Lou Anarumo. Is it maybe time to move on to a new DC and get in some new defensive personnel, both coaching and players? Maybe, but I don't think hiring Ben Johnson solves the problem that your defense is bottom 3 in the league.
I don't know that there is a problem with coaching in Cincinnati. I know that's a weird thing to say, but again, like you said, the offense is great. And Joe Burrow leads the NFL in touchdown passes. And I don't know that anyone in their right mind who knows anything about football can look at Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator of the Bengals, and go, that's not realize that's a great coach. Like, he's a great defensive coordinator, has been for years. The problem in Cincinnati is the person picking the players, the contracts, the fact they're paying Joe Burrow a ton of money, the fact there's not a lot of help there.
Jamar
It's an
Chase
organizational,
a bunch of money.
Yeah, it's a general manager, front office, organizational problem. Like, you and I floated the idea of what's the coach? He went to Ohio State, coached. We talked about Mike Vrabel as head coach with Mike McDaniel as offensive coordinator. Like, that's a fun idea, but it doesn't solve their personnel issues. And again, like you said, the offense is fine. The defense has a great coordinator that I believe in. And that Lou Anarumo, if he gets fired tomorrow, has a job week 1 next year, no problem. Like, he's a great defensive coordinator. The problem is personnel and the front office.
Yeah, I'd agree. Outside of Trey Hendrickson and Hubbard, I don't think that they have a lot on that defense. Yeah, it's going to be tough for them to win games. And maybe you do need a new defensive voice along with new defensive players. Maybe it's both, right? Not to say that Lou Anarumo can't do the job anymore, but maybe just his time is up. But yeah, firing Zac Taylor, to me, not the problem. I personally don't love Zac Taylor as a coach, but right now things are working with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and the rest of that offense. I would not do anything to jeopardize that or make that take any sort of steps back.
So the first part of this question, at what point do you move on from Zac Taylor? What is that? What is that point?
If you go midway, if you have another slow start next year, say you start like 1-3, or just what they've become accustomed to with Joe Burrow, then yeah. Because you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball every single year, and you just can't do that anymore. So if you have a tough start, you end up, honestly, even 3-4, 3-3, 4-6. Right there, it's got to be done.
Yeah, Sam Hubbard, by the way, just tore his PCL, which is part of your knee, I believe. Now, he's going to play. He wore a protective brace. He did not think it's going to require surgery. It could be season ending. So it's really up in the air whether Sam Hubbard's going to play again this year. Bengals are 6-8. They're fighting. They got 3 tough games at the end of the year. They're not out of the wild card, contention yet. I don't think they're going to win a playoff game regardless. I don't know. It's just a really interesting, tough spot for the Bengals.
Yeah.
Question number 2. Jasper writes in, says, "Hey, Zac Attack. With all the talk of Sam Darnold, MVP and all that, what's your take on his future with Minnesota? Should the Vikings keep him and dump McCarthy? I think the main thing most of the chatter I hear is we haven't done enough film analysis of him as an actual former quarterback to know if there's something really concerning with his mechanics or tendencies that are showing up this season that should raise red flags. So basically, is there anything going on with Sam Darnold that we should be concerned about? With the front office or coaching staff, should they extend him? Do you see anything glaring that sticks out that should force the Vikings to see him only as a backup and get rid of him when he gets expensive, or can he actually become that guy, the franchise quarterback in Minnesota? I think Sam's done enough to keep his job, no questions asked, personally. Like, I don't think there is any glaring problem. There is no big concern. The question, the uncomfortable one, is what do you do with JJ McCarthy and what do you pay Sam Darnold? I pay Sam Darnold whatever he wants, and I get rid of JJ McCarthy if he's got a problem with that. What say you, Nathan?
If the number starts with a 3 for Sam Darnold or a low 4, then I'm in, and we bring him back. But if
you mean yearly? Because 4, yearly. You don't mean total. You don't mean 300 million.
No. I don't. I mean 30-something million a year, right? Like high 30s a year or low 40s a year. I take it. I don't want anything in the high 40s, 50s, 60s. To me, it's just not there. And quite frankly, he hasn't earned that. Unless they win the Super Bowl this year or go to the Super Bowl, to me, he hasn't earned that top of the market money. And honestly, if I'm San Francisco, I'm calling him and be like, hey, man, we don't want to pay Brock. Let's get you in here and we'll move Brock to backup. Honestly, that's quite literally what I would do. And I know that he backed up Brock Purdy last year, but you're telling me Sam Darnold, after what we've seen, can't do what Brock Purdy is doing? Anyways, not to get off the point there, but the main thing being you keep him in the building. If he's asking for high 40s, 50s, 60s, you have to let him walk.
Well, the problem is you can't even pay Joe Burrow that much money and win. Like, you know,
Exactly. So why would I pay Sam Darnold and then I've already paid Justin Jefferson and then Jordan Addison's going to want money next year? Like there's still Darisaw is about to demand a massive check. Like you're going to have money that's due and spending it on a guy that you really didn't plan on and that you don't quite think is a future while your future JJ McCarthy is in the building. I just wouldn't do it.
I actually disagree though with one thing. Sam Darnold's now a proven commodity. He can get it done. We know nothing about JJ McCarthy in the NFL. Like to me, it's a big risk to boot Sam Darnold and go with JJ because what if it doesn't work? And then you got rid of a really good quarterback for someone who's unproven. Now, the benefit of JJ McCarthy, before you answer, is that he's really cheap. You get a couple of years on a rookie contract to build around him. So if he can play at all, you can build an incredible team around him. But I don't think it's as simple as, I don't think it's a guarantee JJ McCarthy's good. We know Sam Darnold. We know what he is. We know what he's capable of. And the other thing about JJ McCarthy, God bless him, he's not so ridiculously talented that like you can't, you got to commit. He's not, Anthony Richardson. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen, where the upside is incredible. He's a pretty average athlete who can run a little bit and has an average arm. He plays indoors in Minnesota. That's great, but he's not once in a generation talent wise. So I don't know that it's an obvious thing that he's going to succeed or that you should commit to him.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's obvious or that you should commit either. I'm just saying if Darnold wants a high price tag, I just wouldn't pay it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something I agree with you on.
Because paying Darnold and then him having any sort of setback, now you've taken setbacks and you've undone what your objective was, which was to reset things after moving on from Kirk Cousins.
You don't even need to frame it as what if something bad happens. I don't think it matters what happens to Sam Darnold. What matters is Dak Prescott's contract and Joe Burrow's contract crippled their football teams. And if that's the conversation, it's a non-starter because we can't shoot ourselves in the foot.
Not going to do it. Again, I think if I'm any quarterback at any level, and again, I don't know how to count that much money. Those guys have so much money, it's unbelievable. But take a deal that allows your team to win. Set it up for bonus incentive structures, whatever, man. I just don't pay Sammy D too much. Unless he wins the Super Bowl, then pay him 60 and burn the team down.
Here's the thing with Sam Darnold. And part of the energy of this is that your agent is really pushy to get you as much money as possible. Like remember, your agent is always...
because they get a cut.
Yes. Here's the thing, though. Sam Darnold's made enough money. Like I was just talking about this with Molly the other day. Like, I don't even need $100 million. I don't know what I would do with $50 million. I'd probably live off 10 forever and give away the rest. Like for real. Sam has made enough money. He never needs to think about money again. It's generational wealth. His kids are going to be rich. Dude.
How much has he made?
Probably ballpark 50 million. Something around 50 million, I would imagine. That's before taxes, but he's good. He's comfortable forever if he wants to be.
65 million.
Now, probably more like 30 probably with taxes, something like that. But still, like you're good forever, dude. And 50 million a year or 30 million a year. How big is your quality of life different, really? I don't know. Like you're set for life either way. So how about having a really good time at your job where you're paying people around you, you're winning games, you're competing for a Super Bowl, you're taking down Detroit or the Packers. Like have some self-awareness to realize like, look, dude, that 20 million means way more to my team than it does to me. And I'm good either way. Like I'm already set for life. I just think if that was the approach that Sam Darnold took, he would benefit tremendously on the field from that mindset.
And let's be clear, he might, right? He might be like, wow, I just got a chance and it worked out perfect for me to have this dream scenario. I'm not going to go try and be pushy. I'm going to take it. I'm going to take the money that they give me, whatever that offer is. I'm going to try and help the team and stay here with a quarterback coach who is next level. Kevin O'Connell, I'm going to go on a Kevin O'Connell praise here. There's a lot of great play designers, but few guys know how to call a game so perfectly. The timing, the structure, the defined reads, when they call the plays, when it's run, when it's pass, when it's play action. He just has, like Joe Brady, just such a great game feel to accompany the play design. And why would I leave that? Why would I go take a bunch of money to go, like, say the Titans offered you like $55 million. Why would I go to the Titans and take $55 million? I'm gonna take 41 and I'm gonna stay with the Vikings and have some security.
I want to say this. I think this really matters because I often hear the criticism: don't talk about someone else's money, or
That's
don't
fair.
your job try to. Because you and I, Nathan, we try to make as much money as we possibly can at our job. Here's the difference, though. There's normal people, and then there's generational wealth people. And it's just not the same conversation between me and Sam Darnold. You and I, Nathan, we don't own a house. Like we're trying to. That's a dream that we'd like to make someday happen. So, of course, you and I are in the position where we take as much as humanly possible. When you're an NFL quarterback, money's not a concern you ever need to have again in your entire life. So I'm sorry, but when people come to me and say, Zach, like you try to make everything you possibly can at your job, yeah, because I'm not set for life. Like I'm paycheck to paycheck, trying to do everything I can to get a house someday. Sam Darnold never needs to work again. He could retire tomorrow and never, ever do anything ever again. And so 35 million and 51 million is not that big of a difference for a guy like him in that position. And I just think that context and difference matters. And I've never said that about that distinction, but people give me crap like that all the time. Do you try to get everything you can at your job? I just don't think me and Sam Darnold are the same person.
Yeah, different tax brackets. That's one way to put it. And yeah, just in general, different considerations. Yeah. And then you start talking about the taxes among the different states and the jock tax and all this other stuff. It is an entirely different conversation.
Well, I also think, though, just culturally in America, there's a point where enough is enough. Like, you made it. You're good. And it's very easy to be like, my life is 95% what I want. And you just try to eke out that 5% more. It's like, how about you just enjoy that your life is like basically everything you ever wanted? I recently kind of had that feeling in my own life. And it's like, man, I look around, I'm like, I'm good. I don't need to be pushing so hard or stressing about this or that or trying to get to this next step. It's like, no, I'm good and I'll get there eventually. But my life's good right now. And that's okay to have that attitude.
The sooner I can live somewhere sunny and play golf all day, man, life will be sweet.
Emmett writes in with a two-parter. Part one's about you and me. Part two is about football. So I'll read part one. We'll answer it. Then we can go into part two. But
we are dating. Okay. Next question.
We're in love. Emmett says, hi, Zach and Nathan. I'm a long-time listener, but first-time commenter. I love the content and your takes are always well thought out. They helped me get through COVID and many other ups and downs. I'm very happy to see you are now able to make content consistently again. I also think Nathan is hilarious and brings so much to the show. And this brings me to question number one. I missed the first couple episodes when Nathan joined. This means I don't know much about him, like how you guys met, his connection to football, his favorite team, why he has beef with the Steelers, things like that. So let's pause there. I'll read the second part of the question next. But by the way, are you at Emmett? Did you hear Nathan's on the show and go, I'm skipping? That's a guest episode. I don't need to hear that, Nathan. Like, I'd love to know maybe he got busy. I don't know.
Context behind it. Yeah.
My favorite podcasts I listen to, I'm like 3 weeks behind. I just turn it on. I don't care about timestamps. I just listen to it and I let it roll and I enjoy it no matter what's on. But I realize not everyone does that.
Oh, timestamps. God forbid you don't have timestamps on a video.
Yeah, you can't just, I don't know. I'll do it this week, you guys. I'm sorry. Okay. I had a lot going on. I have a real job, by the way. But Nathan, we met in high school.
Yep.
What else do you want to say about this?
Yeah. Met in high school. We were elite recruits out of the state of Washington. We met at camps and we went to rival high schools. And we started throwing together at these different passing academies and everything like that. And then, we both went to college and then we came back and we were looking for people to kind of throw with, in the off season. And it turned out that we were in the same area. And that's really how our relationship started. When we were younger, we had a featured piece in
the Columbian.
Yeah, the Columbian. Then we had one in Northwest Prep Report too, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, we played each other twice in high school. Like, we were rivals. And by the way, like, we went to prom in the same group. Like, I dated one of your friends. My best friend for real went to your high school. So like, we were around each other a lot. And we met before I even moved to your area. Like, we met at camps and it's interesting how our relationship like weaved together and then got deeper actually in college. It's just weird how like we had so many adjacencies for a while and then it just all, it's interesting. To me, it's really meaningful because I remember when you were in college and my brother died as a dropout and you just needed someone to play catch with. And I got to go throw the football around and it was really rewarding for me.
Yeah. Tell them about my routes. Best routes in the country. No.
Too bad I couldn't catch the ball.
What are you talking about? I had the best hands in the
I know.
nation, too.
I had to find something.
No, but yeah. So we just developed a relationship, and I gravitated to Zac for the way that he takes ownership of things and loves to go out and carve his own path and pursue things with an intent that you don't normally see from people. Doesn't care what other people are saying about him, and those are the kind of people that you want to have around. The people that are going to push you to be better. They're going to push you to challenge yourself. And they're going to have the real and honest conversations and ask you the real and honest questions. So when you find people like that, you latch onto them and you stay connected.
I think two things. One weird thing is I actually live in Nathan's old building. I don't know if that's ever come up. I think we talked about it once.
I think we talked about that, yeah.
Molly remembers seeing your fiance in the elevator. Like, it's hilarious. And you guys didn't know each other at that point. I didn't know Molly at that point, but I now live in the building you used to live in. It's just a weird coincidence there in downtown Portland. And then I don't know if, I guess Emmett wouldn't know this because I don't think we talk about it that often, but guys, you're listening to a Division I college wide receiver. Like, Nathan was a badass, incredible. Like, I was a quarterback. I was a princess, not a great athlete. I played chess in my mind and threw a football a little bit. Nathan was like actually a great, incredible athlete who's like built like an athlete, has big muscles and can run and hit people. Like, I just always looked up to you as an athlete as well as, just a football player. Like, you're truly like really, really talented. Which is not something I feel like I could say about myself. Like, I was just smart, honestly, and I had good people skills.
Don't downplay yourself. Yeah. And also don't gas me up like that. These people are going to go try and find my stats and they're not going to find any.
Hey man, only one of us was a D1 athlete. Just saying.
Yeah. It was a time long ago.
Do you let's talk about this for a second, because I feel like I meet people all the time that ask me about football or this, and I never want to be the guy who lives in the past. I never want to be the guy who's like, back then when I was like, I'd always downplay everything I did because I never want to be the guy who's like the glory days guy. Do you kind of agree? Is that your approach?
Yeah, and just, my college career wasn't the glory days. But not only that, just enjoy those moments with the ones that you love. And I think, like you were talking about with Davante Adams, when you get with the boys, sometimes it's all right to get out there and get a little boisterous. But in general, humility is the way to go. And, to put your best foot forward, sometimes you have to hold back some of those things that you feel like you want to express, even if you're excited about it.
What I will say, because I think I can sell your credentials. You played games at Autzen Stadium. You're a D1 athlete. And then also, like, what people don't know is some of your professional life has crossed over with some big football stuff too. And I just think that, like, we don't talk about your credentials very often, like your resume, for lack of a better term, as an athlete or professionally. But I think you have more ground to stand on than most people on the planet when it comes to talking about football, in my opinion. And you would never tell people that. Like, you don't brag about it. You're very humble. But most people that talk about football are like, I'm like, you didn't do anything. Like, you're not that guy to me. Like, I really respect your background in the football world, professionally and as an athlete.
I appreciate that. And as I've tried to bring that to this platform, I've learned that there's a lot that I have in my head, and my head moves at 1,000,000 miles an hour. No one could last a day in my brain. The internal conversation is through the roof. So trying to take that, watch games, formulate takes, and then bring that to you guys a clean and concise way, like, that's really hard and something that I'm learning to do. And so I appreciate you guys tuning in, dropping some positive comments, and just listening and enjoying Zac and I talk about football, because we care and we love the game. We love the sport. We're not casuals. We're not lazy like some of you guys like to say. We just, we love to do this for you guys.
I will say, so I think everyone knows you're an Oregon Duck fan.
Big Duck fan.
Do you have a favorite NFL team? It's in there. He says, do you have a favorite team? I don't think you do, right? Do you?
No, I was always a players guy. It was always University of Oregon. And where we grew up, you could have maybe been a Seahawks fan, but that really wasn't like a thing where I was from, like Vancouver. Like, it wasn't a big major sports town. So latched on to the Ducks, was wearing Duck gear before I knew, how to say my own name probably. And it's a part of me at this point. Yeah, no NFL team. I just love players and I love good stories.
So the second part of Emmett's question, it says, it's about the Steelers, my favorite team. Why do you think Kenny Pickett failed? I'm not sure what it is. I do like blaming Matt Canada, though. So I have a thought I'd like to share first. I think the offensive coordinator was a problem with Kenny Pickett. I think he didn't get a lot of help that was necessary. Kenny Pickett's also not a great athlete. Like we talked about JJ McCarthy a minute ago. Kenny Pickett's got a weaker arm. He's not a bigger guy. He's not a great athlete. He doesn't run really well. Like he's nothing on paper about Kenny Pickett talent-wise. They're like, we got to have that. And then on top of that, they didn't get rid of Kenny Pickett. They wanted Kenny Pickett to have competition. They wanted to bring in Russell Wilson to challenge him, try to make him better, try to see who's better. Like they just wanted competition in the quarterback room, and Kenny Pickett didn't want that. He threw hissy fit and got all upset and demanded a trade. So part of it was coaching. Part of it was there's nothing about Kenny Pickett that is so desirable. You just have to have it. And then the biggest part is that Kenny Pickett just didn't want to compete. He didn't want to compete for what he felt like was his job. And instead of being a backup or maybe the starter in Pittsburgh, he chose to be the definite backup in Philadelphia, which is a whatever, man. Good luck, I guess. Anything you want to add to that with Kenny Pickett?
Not really. I think he got handed a shit sandwich. And when you're a guy that, isn't a generational talent, if you will, it's going to be hard to come in and make an impact in an organization when you're not set up for success, right? Like we immediately saw the difference between Matt Canada and now an Arthur Smith, like just a minor change. I don't even think it's a big upgrade, just any sort of upgrade. And you started to see the offense operate and maneuver a little bit differently. And those first few weeks of learning the NFL are so important. And if you don't have somebody to teach you, your confidence can go just straight to the trash. We've seen that with quarterbacks over and over again. Sam Darnold, the guy that we've talked about a bunch tonight, that's a guy that experienced something similar. He's not Kenny Pickett's not the first. He's not going to be the last that gets put in a horrible situation. I don't know exactly what happened, but sucks.
I would add this. I think Arthur Smith is a big upgrade over Matt Canada. But that's just because Matt Canada is awful and Arthur Smith is serviceable. Like he's a competent offensive coordinator. He's fair enough. He's good. Not great, not outstanding, but like this is good enough for now. It's competent.
It'll work.
Matt Canada was incredibly incompetent and really, really a problem and just not good at his job at all.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to have a big upgrade over someone who's bad.
Yeah, totally.
Tbone writes in. This is kind of a follow-up. Not really a question, but just I think you might actually enjoy the follow-up here. Hey, Zach and Nathan. Thank you for your advice on what to do for our American trip next year. We love American sports and definitely want to go to an NFL, NBA, and college football game. We want to visit the big cities, of course, but we love nature and want to visit the Grand Canyon and Yosemite. We love the outdoors and going for hikes as well, so this trip will be a mix of everything. I'm so excited for the West Coast road trip to visit the small coastal towns and see the amazing views on the coastline.
West Coast, Coast.
We want to see and do as much as we can in the States, so we are staying in the cheapest accommodation options. Hopefully this information gives you guys an idea what else we should do on our trip. Thanks again, and hopefully in a few years I can give you both travel tips for Australia. You say you're doing cheap accommodations. There's no part of this trip that sounds cheap at all. I don't know. Like, dude, are you dropping $20,000 to visit America, Tbone? Like, I don't know how you're doing it.
A couple of Motel 8s, a couple of friends. Maybe you meet out at the bars, ask if you can crash on their couch. I don't know.
What I will say, I think in other cultures, I know friends in Europe, like part of their coming of age thing is you go travel. You go spend like a month somewhere and your parents kind of save up for it and you save up for it. And people are comfortable dumping. Like I have friends in Europe that have spent like $10,000 on a month-long trip to backpack somewhere or see parts of whatever. And it's like just part of your coming of age, like becoming and we don't do that in America, but
should have put it in Bitcoin.
I think it's just more common in other cultures, I guess I'm trying to say. Yeah, man, if you're going to do that, if you're into nature, just make sure you see San Luis Obispo, man. Like it's just beautiful. Have like a nice little dinner and hang out. It's like Arizona and Hawaii had a weird California baby in the beach area.
If you make it up to Portland, just make sure you stop by Cheryl's on 12th. Go there for a little breakfast, a little brunch. You'll love it.
Tbone, I'll say
That's
this.
all I ask.
If you plan ahead, my email is in the description, but you also can reach out to me privately. And by the way, I don't have Instagram on my phone at all, so do not reach out to me on Instagram. I will not see it. I will not answer. But Tbone, if you reach out to me and can find the right channels, by the way, like you can very easily just email me. I'll get fucking lunch with you, man. Like if you're in the Northwest, I will absolutely. I think I wouldn't even be shocked if Nathan was like, "Hey, dude, I'll get a beer with some random guy from Australia."
No, you guys pick me up on your way north. You grab me in San Francisco, and we'll keep driving up, and then we'll get to Portland, and then I'll fly back home.
Here's the other thing. I'm an adult with money and too much time on my hands. Like, if you go to San Francisco, I would even like this is weird, but like I love San Francisco. I could always use a trip to San Francisco. I would come down to see Nathan, grab a beer, and meet you guys. Like I'm down to meet up if you want to. I guess I'll put that out.
Sick. That'd be sick.
Open to that. Will writes in with something that we actually should have talked about, but I knew we had a Patreon question coming, so I saved it. But it is kind of big news in the football world. Will says Bill Belichick is going to college. Since they're friends, I feel like I've got to ask, do you think he brings in Nick Saban as some sort of advisor role for UNC? So let's be clear. Bill Belichick is the new head coach of North Carolina football, which is a weird fit that I'm not very confident in, actually. But it's a good time to now hear what you think, Nathan. What do you make of that hire of Bill Belichick going to UNC?
As college football trends closer to the NFL, you've got your NIL funds, essentially creating like a I don't know if salary cap's the right word, but creating work for a general manager to navigate, moving it away from the head coach. Head coaches are probably going to go on less visits, and the new rules have opened up teams to have recruiters that aren't necessarily your position coaches, right? So there's a lot of things that are now translatable from the NFL to college football. And I think that if you bring any sort of defense to the ACC, you're going to win games. And again, if you've got Bill Belichick and you've got any defensive players, you say, hey, if you come here, you're going to the NFL. I'm going to get you NFL ready. That's a big draw defensively. And on the offensive side, I'm not sure exactly who he brings in, but that would be, I don't know how to say it. That'd be tough to commit to UNC as an offensive guy, seeing the way things went in New England kind of when it closed down. But again, you've got a general manager, you've got different people doing recruiting for you. Hopefully he kind of gives up that, what do you want to call it? That control, and then you get an effective offense, right? Pair that with his defense, and again, they're going to win ACC championship after ACC championship.
My favorite. Go ahead.
I was going to say, does he call Nick Saban? Because I feel like that was a big part of the question. I mean, they'll call and catch up like they normally do, but do you see how comfortable and cushy Nick Saban is with ESPN right now? That man is chilling on the desk. He's not going anywhere that's going to raise his blood pressure. Terry's not letting him go.
The funniest part of the Bill Belichick hiring, I don't know if you know this, but 72-year-old Bill Belichick's girlfriend is the same age as my fiance Molly.
Hey, the guy can recruit.
So Bill's going to college. So is his girlfriend, apparently. I think it's funny. I was pretty down on Bill Belichick just going anywhere because I don't think he fits in today's NFL. But in college, you made a good point that the NFL is becoming more like the NFL. He also is, for real, like the best coach ever, like just bar none. Like he's got that cachet. And so at least early on, he can just trade his name. And all recruiting is sales, is saying like, here's my pitch. And he's got a huge pitch. I'm fucking Bill Belichick. You want to you want to get ready for the NFL from the guy who was the best NFL coach of all time? Like that's not a bad pitch. And I think could work to some degree. And then also UNC is kind of desperate. I know some people there, a friend of mine, it doesn't matter. I know some people there. They were very comfortable giving Bill Belichick all the control. He had a hard time in the NFL because he wanted to be GM and head coach, but in college he is GM and coach and does whatever he wants. A program like UNC that's doesn't have a lot of leverage can just give him all the power and get out of the way. I was really down on it until you mentioned that, and now I'm kind of like, it's interesting, actually. It is actually fascinating to see him trade his name and his reputation to players and say, look, I'm Bill. I can help you get ready for the NFL because I dominated it for years. And it's interesting. It really is.
I'm pretty sure that he has an opt-out clause before June of 2025. So there's a chance. There's something weird in there. I can't remember this exactly. But he may have the opportunity to leave if he gets a head coaching job in the NFL.
Hmm.
So in some way,
Interesting.
shape, or form, if that thing works out, there was word that he had reached out to the Jets about their head coaching vacancy. Obviously, that didn't work out, so he signed that contract with UNC. But there's a world where somebody calls and says, "Hey, we'll take you," and he abandons that. But 2 years at UNC, they don't have a step ahead of everybody. Like people are talking about Harbaugh right now. The college players, who's good, who's not. You get to the NFL. Now you have a clearer picture of the guys you need to draft. You can come over. You can turn around an NFL team really quickly. So I think he's playing chess right now.
Maybe, but remember, players want to, if you commit to a coach, you want them to be there for 4 years. Now, you don't have to because you can recruit, you can leave and transfer, whatever. I understand all that, but I don't know. It's a really interesting approach. I think he'll have fun. He'll find it rewarding. He loves coaching. I think he misses coaching and wants to do it.
He definitely does.
I don't think the NFL wants Bill Belichick, to be honest. I don't think he fits in today's NFL. He crashed and burned pretty hard in New England and had a young quarterback and really, really blew it and messed up that kid's confidence. I think, honestly, like we talked about it before I did,
gaslighting him.
I just don't.
Bro, you're fine. Here's Matt Patricia, bro. You're good.
Yeah, I just don't know why any NFL coach or any NFL team would want to hire Bill Belichick, to be totally honest. I just don't know what he brings to the table that benefits anyone in the NFL, to be totally honest.
Signing Bill Belichick comes with too many T's and C's, too many terms and conditions. Well, if you're going to sign, then you got to do this. Okay, well, if I'm going to do this, then you have to do that until you finally get to a place where now nobody's happy because they've made so many compromises. Right? It's like the book by Chris Voss. I recommend you guys read it. It's called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Compromising always ends up with somebody being unhappy. It's just the nature of it.
Well, also think about this, man. Like Bill Belichick in Cincinnati, for example, there's a chance he just totally ruins Joe Burrow's career. Like for real. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility if that happened. Never. You don't think so?
No. You can't ruin Joey B.
Fair, but I guess I'm not certain. That's like the best case scenario for Bill Belichick. I think honestly, Cincinnati, and I don't know, like because the Raiders are not a good opportunity for him. Anyone with a young quarterback's not like Chicago should not pursue Bill Belichick at all. So he's got to go somewhere with an established quarterback. How many teams like that have an opening? Maybe Cincinnati, and that's it. Like there's nowhere to place Bill Belichick into the NFL that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, that's true.
Because again, the problem is he doesn't work well with young quarterbacks, and that's a death knell to anyone wanting to be a head coach in the NFL right now.
Yeah, and he never had to, right? That was a first experience for him, right? Because he didn't anticipate Tom Brady being the guy that he was and coming in. Honestly, like Tom Brady being as mature as he was when he stepped in for Drew Bledsoe, right? A guy who takes it that seriously. So throughout his 20-year career, 20 years, however many he was in New England, he didn't have to worry about coaching a young quarterback. So that was probably a learning curve for him that he was, can't teach an old dog new tricks. Like he just probably wasn't really willing to do it. And I think now, probably looking back and reflecting, he's probably like, you know what? I probably could have done this differently, that differently. And I think that's why he's willing to take this UNC job. He's like, I've got things to work on. Like I'm still getting better as a coach. As great and as amazing he already is in his own right, he's still getting better.
He'll enjoy it, though. I think that matters. When you're 72, and I don't think Bill wants to do nothing. I think he wants to be fulfilled.
Chapel Hill's not a bad job.
No. Final question of the day comes from. I have this name in my head a lot, and I don't know why. I always like when I'm doing dishes, I think of this guy's stupid name. It's so funny. His name is Difibulo. Difibulo. I don't know what is that a reference to something?
No, I don't. I just.
It's weird,
right? Why is it in your head? While you're
I just think about it. Like I'll be just randomly like it like accosts me sometimes. I'm like getting ready for bed and I'm like Difibulo. Like why do I remember that word? What does that mean? And now I know it's this guy on Patreon that. But again, occasionally this word pops in my head. I'm like, what does that mean? What is a Difibulo? It's not a thing. It's a name on Patreon, but it's hilarious that it just like stuck in my head with nothing associated to it though. So I didn't know what to place, what value to place on that word. I was like, I don't know what a Difibulo is, right? And now I know it's just a name. Anyway.
So what did he say?
He says, season's greeting, HVAC Zach and Oregon Nation Nathan. I like that. Oregon Nation,
we got a new one, baby. Nathan. I like that.
That is a good one. And it's, again, HVAC Zach is alliterative. So is Oregon Nation Nathan. That's Difibulo. Man,
Because we are on it.
we finally figured it out.
on.
And yeah, okay.
Anyways.
Yeah, great. He says, my question for you guys is concerning the upcoming class of available quarterbacks in the draft and potential free agents. If you're an NFL general manager of a quarterback needy team like the Saints, Browns, or Giants, what would your ideal scenario be to fill that void? If you had your pick, would you rather have a top 5 pick to grab a Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders? Or would you prefer to sign Sam Darnold if you could get him on a relatively team-friendly deal, something like 2 years, $60 million to find out if he can turn your team around? If you could identify your best case scenario for a GM in that spot, what would it be? I want to be very clear about Sam Darnold. I don't think he should go anywhere but Minnesota. Like that's the other part of Sam Darnold's contract negotiations is like, hey, dude, you're on your third team. This is the one where it worked because of Kevin O'Connell. Like, take a team-friendly deal because you want to keep working with Kevin O'Connell. It's not guaranteed he goes to, I don't know, the Giants next year and does well. So part of the contract negotiation for Sam Darnold is you want to be there. And I think that is going to lend to him signing a team-friendly deal. So I don't think Sam Darnold should be part of the conversation in the quarterback market. Do you agree?
Yeah, if he's smart, he wouldn't be. But yeah, I agree with that.
I also don't. I think Cam Ward's pretty good. I think he's pretty good. I think he's really, really like interesting and exciting. That's kind of it, though.
I remember being attacked months ago when I said he's a great playmaker. I don't know about quarterback. Did we come around to that?
Let's be clear. No, he's great. He's great in the system. Like I think really carried a Miami football team. Like, sorry, I didn't mean to downplay that. Like I think he's the best quarterback. I wanted to
check in and see if your temperature had changed on
No. So to me, Cam Ward is the only franchise quarterback right now, obviously in the draft next year. I think Shedeur Sanders is a lot of fluff and a lot of talk and a lot of. I'm not that impressed. I don't think he's got a great arm.
He had one less touchdown and one more pick than Cam Ward this year.
That's great. Numbers aren't everything though. I just don't.
They both played equal competition.
I hear you.
Shedeur took more sacks.
That's not a good thing.
That's what I'm saying.
I saw Cam make more plays in really important moments and really help a team in the fourth quarter. And I just think
I'm just antagonizing.
If I'm a head coach, I want Cam Ward. I don't know that I want Shedeur Sanders, and also again the baggage that comes with him. Like Shedeur Sanders is a lot. You're bringing in a lot to your organization, not just a quarterback. And then Quinn Ewers is really unimpressive and has been a lot this year. He's talented, and I thought was going to turn into a franchise quarterback. It hasn't happened this year. And then what? Carson Beck is the next guy. Like he's awful. So
Jackson Dart.
Yeah, he's interesting. He's talented, but he also plays in a really, really simplistic system. Doesn't transfer very well to the NFL. Like you're going to have to teach Jackson Dart a lot. He better sit for a year. He's not going to be ready early on in his career, in my opinion. So I don't think this is a great quarterback class. I think it's got one good quarterback and then a lot of question marks. And the only, I don't know. I don't know. Do you agree with that, Nathan? Am I off base? Am I wrong about Shedeur Sanders? What do you make of everything I just said?
I think Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward are closer to each other than we think. It's just the athletic ability that Cam Ward has over Shedeur Sanders is bar none. Cam Ward is unbelievable in his ability to escape the pocket.
Can I ask you a question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm so sorry to cut you off. Is Shedeur Sanders not just marketing though? Like, because what does he do that's special?
He throws the football into tight windows and he throws the football on target and he makes great reads. You know what I mean?
I guess.
Again, he's got one less touchdown and one more pick than Cam Ward for the entire season.
But no. Physically, what does he do that's special?
He is more accurate than Cam Ward for sure.
Okay.
He is for sure more accurate than Cam Ward, and I trust him to drop back and make the right read more than I do Cam Ward to drop back. Remember what I talked about with Cam Ward and his eyes? And sometimes he's looking, but he's not seeing. And so he'll have to extend a play when he could have gotten it out. But then other times he sees it straight on and he attacks it.
That's don't agree, man. I also remember like Cam was playing in a kind of crippled Mario Cristobal system. You know, I don't, and then Shedeur Sanders is in year 2 of his system. I mean, I don't know. I guess no, they fired the offensive coordinator. I don't know. I don't see them as close as you do, and I'm not. For some reason, I just can't. I'm
And
not
let's
sold
be
on Shedeur.
clear. Let's be clear. I don't think either of them are, oh my goodness, Andrew Luck. I think that they're both great college quarterbacks, and I think that they both have potential to be good quarterbacks in the NFL. But I think Shedeur Sanders is more ready to step into an NFL offense day one and play.
I think both need the right situation. Like for example, the Raiders terrify me. I don't think the Raiders are a good
I would
situation for
not,
any quarterback.
no matter what player goes to the Raiders, they're going to have a tough time. And Cam Ward might be able to make more plays athletically and be running for his life like Kyler Murray was his rookie year. But that's not what you want out of your franchise quarterback. That stunts their growth because here we are, Kyler Murray still a couple years later. Sometimes he's great. Sometimes he's just not seeing things.
I wanted Cam Ward in Minnesota. Now that'll never happen now, but
No.
I like the Giants. Are the Giants a good opportunity? Did they bring in Shedeur Sanders?
That would be interesting. You know, you got Dayball in there, a guy who's worked with a young quarterback, being Josh Allen.
Malik Neighbors.
You've got Malik Neighbors. You can probably find a way to get yourself another weapon in the draft. Like, it's not the worst case scenario, but there's just so much dysfunction in New York right now. Ever since Eli retired, that I don't know. You don't have an abrasive owner though, which is a good thing. But you don't have. I don't want to. It's a cursed organization right now.
Raiders, Tennessee, Seattle, and then Giants, and then Jets, maybe, and maybe Cowboys. Those are the 5 or 6 teams, and the Saints that need a quarterback. What's the best opportunity of the ones I listed? Giants, Jets, Cowboys, Saints, Titans, or Seattle. I think Seattle's the best place a quarterback could go. I think Raiders is pretty bad. Most of them are bad, though. Most of these situations are just bad for a young quarterback.
Seattle, you're arguably going to get the most stability. With the Giants, it depends on, is Brian Daboll still there? What's the head coaching situation? But I also think the Jets, if they move on from Aaron Rodgers, which I really anticipate them doing, like that wouldn't be a bad place to go. You know, assuming that they bring in the right head coach to pair up, like you've already got enough offensive weapons, defensive personnel, while thin, is still talented at the top. You'd be in a pretty good spot.
You know, the Titans don't have weapons really at all, but they've got a coach I like, Brian Callahan, and a quarterback they hate, Will Levis. They just benched him, by the way, after 3 interceptions this past weekend.
It was a complete disaster.
No, dude,
it was a disaster.
It was a hurricane that season. Like, it was awful.
Yeah,
but
they tried.
But it was a fun disaster. What happened this year in Tennessee? But my point is, like, is that of the quarterback needed? Because I think most of these situations are bad. Is Tennessee under the radar? Like, not the worst? Because again, I don't know if the Saints are good. I don't know if the Raiders are bad. A bad place to go. A lot of them are obviously bad. I don't think the Titans are obviously bad. And plus, they're in a bad division that has opportunity. They just need to support him. What do you make of Tennessee as an opportunity for a young quarterback?
Not a lot of weapons offensively. Tony Pollard's not a horrible place to start. Calvin Ridley, spotty at times. Westbrook Ikine, not really sure what you're getting out of him. And I still don't know what to make of Brian Callahan, because if Will Levis is still making these kind of mistakes, and obviously Mason Rudolph's not the guy to back him up to come in and change things up, right?
Yeah.
Is Will Levis truly that bad? Are you not on the same page with kind of coaching that recklessness out of him? Like, who is it more on? Like, I just don't know how to make that call yet with Brian Callahan. Like, the team seems mostly well coached, and I'd like to believe that he is a great coach. I simply don't know enough to be able to say that is definitively a great place to be.
What if the Raiders hired? So if the draft were today, the number 1 pick would be the Raiders. Number 2 would be the Giants. Number 3, New England. Number 4, Jacksonville. Number 5, Carolina. Tennessee is 6. So it doesn't really matter after that because it's like Cleveland, the Jets, Chicago, like teams that don't need a quarterback. So you're going to have to trade up. It looks like the Raiders are going to have the number 1 pick if it were today. Giants are the number 2 pick, so they're both getting a quarterback probably. Tennessee is number 6. I think the Raiders could make a move to get Shedeur Sanders and Deion Sanders together. Not saying that's a good move, but that does sound very Raiders. That does something move they would make. What do you make of that idea?
I've heard of some stuff like that happening. I think Michael Irvin was talking about Deion Sanders going to the Cowboys, actually, and the Cowboys making a play. So all that kind of stuff, I really don't have the energy to speculate. You know that Shedeur Sanders, like the Mannings did, is going to force himself into the best possible situation that he can. So we can think up all these different ideas, but at the end of the day, he's going to try and pick where he wants to go.
I think he would willingly go to the Raiders and just flash the watches and just enjoy it. I think
live the Vegas life.
I think he would. I think he would lean into Vegas more than other people would. Actually,
I think he would.
That's all I got, man. That's the show today. Unless you have more you want to say about quarterbacks, but
yeah. That's it. Wow.
Yeah, man.
Damn. Just sometimes it goes so fast.
I mean, that was a 2-hour show, so I don't know, man. Thanks for your time, dude. I love you. I appreciate you. Anything you want to say before next week?
No, just go enjoy your loved ones. Go enjoy some football this weekend. Bring a dish. If you're not a guy that normally brings a dish, bring something. All right, step up for the family. Go ahead and make something. Make something. It doesn't have to be too difficult. Just make something. Get some flowers for your mom. Get some flowers for your dad. Do something kind.
Yeah, I that's good advice people need to hear more often. It would just bring something to eat to the event. Contribute a little bit. It helps.
Right, yeah. I don't need you to bring the whole ham or the whole turkey. Bring a little something. Bring a little something.
What's your go-to? What would you bring?
Oh, man. My new thing has been bacon-wrapped little smokies. Oh. So you got pigs in a blanket, right?
Oh, you Instead
of in a blanket, you do it with bacon, and then you sprinkle a little brown sugar on the top, put it in the oven, like 35, 40 minutes. They come out. The bacon's cooked perfectly. That brown sugar, the sweetness with the savory. Oh, flawless.
A fun little...
It is so easy to do. It's easy.
Yeah. No, dude, a fun entree is like it's good advice just generally, honestly.
Yeah.
Anyway, man, I love you, dude. Thanks for your time this week. And guys, that's all we have. But
love you, brother.
Bam. We are done.